you never really felt the same. It's more like you were using me. I get chills when you leave my body. When you leave my body. I get chills when you're not inside me. When you're not inside me. I got love up in my pocket and I don't know what to do with it. I got love up in my rocket and I don't know what to do with it. And I'm hot as hell in the windshield well of your eyes when you were looking. There's no way to say how much time it takes to move on again and keep it moving. Lost my mind and I don't know just where it went. It's still a mystery. Took a trip and saw the sun and swore I thought that shit was.
Attention, attention. The seminar will begin shortly. We would like to humbly ask all the participants to please kindly turn your camera on and mute your mic for the convenience and well-being of the event. We very much appreciate your cooperation and we wish you an enjoyable seminar. Thank you.
I get chills when you leave my body. When you leave my body. I get chills when you're not inside me. When you're not inside. Only taking me a second to see if I'm gonna vibe with her. She said when you gonna finish. I said
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Welcome to Petroweek Grand Seminar 2020.
Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Shana Salivia, and together with my partner,
Hello everyone, my name is Toro and we will guide you through this event.
before we proceed to the main event, let's start the day with a prayer for the well-being and safety of the event. Let us pray according to our own beliefs. Let the prayer begin. Amen.
And now, I would like to invite everyone in the room to sing the national anthem of Indonesia. Indonesia Raya.
As we know, Petroweek 2020 is the newest and the grandest online event held by Petroleum Engineering Student Body and SP Trisakti Student Chapter. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our event is conducted as an online event in an international scale.
Wow, that means there are so many people involved, right? And for your information, Petroweek 2020 includes three main events, which are online grand seminar, online course, and online competition like paper competition, math innovation competition, case study competition, and last but not least, smart competition.
See guys, it's gonna be exciting! As the master of ceremony of this event, let me deliver the schedule of today's event. This event will be divided by several sessions. The first one is the opening session that will be followed by the panel discussion with our honorable speakers. There will be also the question and answer session. And don't forget, we have the door prize for 3 lucky participants.
Okay, Sanas, but before we continue, we would like to say thank you to our beloved sponsors.
To ExxonMobil Triple Limited as our gold sponsor,
Telkomsel as our gold sponsor,
Medco Energy as our silver sponsor,
Premier Oil as our silver sponsor,
and PG Saka as our silver sponsor.
to officially open this event, let us hear the opening speech from Mr. Afiat Anugrahadi as the Dean of Faculty of Earth and Energy Technology.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Speakers, Pandey Susanta, Ardian Nengkoda, Agung Pratama, Devatasya Ulita, Cindy Khairunisa, and all the various students. First, I would like to welcome and also state my gratitude to all the speakers and judges who have spared their time to share knowledge with us. This event is very good to the health because it can be an opportunity for students to improve themselves and develop innovation. And to all the committees, thank you for holding this marvelous event. It is prolific to hold this event online considering this pandemic situation. In other words, we can still embrace our potential and broaden our insight despite this unfavorable situation. I hope your hard work paid off with the expeditions of this event. Before I sum up this speech, I hope that this event can be beneficial to the committees, participants, also to the speakers and judges. Hope all can enjoy this event and have a great day. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
And now, let us hear from Mr. Abu Hamid as the head of Petroleum Engineering Department.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, the respectable speaker, Pandey Susanto, Ardian Mengkoda, Agung Pratama, Deva Tasya Ulita, Cindy Khairunisa, and all the respected students. First of all, I would wish to welcome and also state our appreciation to any or all the speaker and judge who have spared their time to share their expertise with us. I would also like to welcome all the participants who have taken the time to put some spirit into this event. This event is additionally excellent to be held because it will be a chance for student association to boost themselves and to expand their connection with future petroleum engineers to be technically advanced and socially informed. And to all or any the committees, many thanks for carrying this marvelous event. I hope your diligence paid off with the success of this event. Before I settle this speech, I would prefer to hope that this event will be beneficial to everyone involved. Hope we all can enjoy this event and have a nice day.
Now, let us hear from Mrs. Pahesti Rusdi as the third Vice Dean Assistant of Faculty of Earth and Energy Technology.
The honorable speakers and all of the reputable students. First of all, I would like to welcome and express our appreciation to all of the speakers and judges who have seized this opportunity to impart their insight to us. This occasion is likewise excellent to be held because it very well may be an open door for understudy relationships to develop themselves and to create advancements. Furthermore, to all the panels, thank you for holding this great occasion. It is productive to hold this occasion internet-based considering about the pandemic circumstance. As such, we can now grasp our latent capacity and expand our experiences despite this ominous circumstance. I trust your difficult work will be paid off with the quickness of this occasion. Before I end up this discourse, I believe that this occasion can be valuable to the board of trustees members and even to the speakers and judges. It is to be expected that we as a whole can appreciate this occasion and have an earnest.
And now we would like to hear the opening remarks by Mr. Yosafat and Mr. Dafa as the President and Vice President of SP Trisakti Student Chapter.
Good morning, Mr. Afiat Anugrahadi, Mr. Lili Zabidi, Mr. Abdul Hamid, and Mrs. Pohesti Rusdi. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Petroweek 2020. We, on behalf of SP Trisakti Student Chapter, would like to say thank you to all of you for being supportive to our prestigious event. And not to forget, we would like to thank God that we could all be safe from home.
Yes, and we would like to thank Mr. Pandya Susanta, Mr. Ardian Nenggoda, Mr. Agung Pratama, Miss Deva Tasya, and Miss Cindy Hoirunis.
We are very excited about today's event because today is the moment that we've been waiting for, probably since the start of the pandemic. And it's been rough for us because many of our plans were interfered, therefore postponed.
Even this event was just a wish to us back then. Pandemic has stopped us from seeing each other, but it will not stop us from learning and gaining knowledge. So we decided Petroweek will happen and SP will survive.
Yes, and we did. Petroweek 2020 was designed to be the biggest, grandest, and most awaited online event of the year because it is the first time such a grand event as Petroweek goes online.
We would like to thank all the committee for your hard work and integrity for SP. We are aware that it has been very difficult sometimes because of the situation, but your hard work finally pays off.
Talking about the theme of Petroweek 2020, the new era of energy, reinforcing energy industry through digitalization transformation. Well, the oil and gas industry is no longer a stranger towards technology, continued innovation, digitalization, and development.
The industry has started to embrace digital technology with a main focus on better understanding of reservoir resource and production potential, moving forward in well-being and safety, and boosting operational efficiencies in oil fields around the world.
A rush of digital oilfield activities swept through the vast majority of the business in the early part of this century. In many cases, in most of this decade, the industry has now taken advantage of the openings that derive from utilizing information and innovation in a significant way.
Industry has beginning to pay heed the opportunity for oil and gas industry to use the transformational impact of digitalization has become more apparent.
Through this event, we will gather here to better understand the implications of this change, to be fully prepared for the groundbreaking changes in the oil and gas industry ahead. The oil and gas industry should consider adapting or, in some cases, altering their setup methods of working.
The biggest pools of significant work later on are probably going to be driven by cutting-edge systematic models, but by the capacity of the businesses to embrace digitalization rapidly over a part of the business itself.
Therefore, thank you for your participation.
We wish you a very fruitful and productive seminar. Enjoy this event.
Followed by the opening remarks by Mr. Gilbert Sunario and Ms. Prilly Lauma as the Project Manager and Vice Project Manager of Petroweek 2020.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Greeting from Indonesia. Welcome to my friends, lecturer, and young professionals. My name is Gilbert Sunarjo as the Project Manager of Petroweek 2020, and here I accompanied by
Prilly Lauma as the Vice Project Manager of Petroweek 2020. Technology has changed how we deal with business from time to time. This happens in all sectors, including the oil and gas industry. The world is facing a new era of oil and gas industry. As we all know, the industry is weathering by the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic and the uncertainty of oil price. From this incident, we have to utilize all of the digital acceleration, or as we know as Industry 4.0, to reach out the industry goals. Therefore, the considerations are:
first is by optimizing oil production, secondly, processing power source that related to supercomputer, and the third, by utilizing online platform and maximizing the use of field data expertise. So, coming from SP Trisakti student chapter, Petroweek 2020 as our annual international event will be presented online as one of the ways to support the government policy during this COVID-19 pandemic. So, without the furthermore, we proudly present the new era of energy,
reinforcing energy industry through digitalization transformation as our main theme. We hope this event could be a platform as a positive way to enhance student knowledge and to expand connections internationally as a part of the oil and gas industry development.
On behalf of Petroweek 2020, we would like to express our gratitude to all of the honorable speaker, the executive board faculty of Earth Technology and Energy, and all the participants for attending our greatest event. We hope that this event will be a great opportunity for all of us.
Thank you and enjoy the event.
Okay guys, before we start, I would like to invite you to take a photo together. So please turn on your camera so we could see your beautiful and handsome faces, and unmute your mic so we could hear your voices too.
Come on, guys.
Wow.
Hello everyone.
Halo.
Hai. Sorry Kak, tadi lagi.
Halo.
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 Ya, standby Kak. Ini Mas belum ada.
Okay, Sana. I think all participants have already opened the camera.
Okay. When I count 3, 2, 1, you guys say Petroweek, okay?
Okay.
Okay, here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1.
Petroweek.
Okay, guys. Once again, okay? 3, 2, 1.
Petroweek.
Thank you, everyone. This photo will be shared on our Instagram.
Okay. So don't forget to check our Instagram at Petroweek 2020.
Okay.
Okay. Today, we will have a panel discussion about applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. We are proud to say that we will have the Honorable Mr. Pande Susanta as a country manager at NESR Indonesia, the Honorable Mr. Ardian Nengkoda as the lead facilities development at Saudi Aramco, the Honorable Ms. Deva Tasya as a reservoir engineer at DNI Schlumberger,
The Honorable Miss India Hairunisa as a facilities engineer at ExxonMobil Cepu Limited,
the Honorable Mr. Agung Pratama as a drilling manager at Petronas,
led by our moderator, the Honorable Mr. Arashi Azariat as a reservoir engineer at PT Pertamina Hulu Mahakam.
Mr. Arashi graduated from Bandung Institute of Technology in 2010. He received his master's degrees at IFP School, majoring in reservoir geoscience engineering.
He started his career as a reservoir engineer apprentice at Hess Corporation, and he has worked as a reservoir engineer in total. Currently, he is working as a reservoir engineer at PT Pertamina Hulu Mahakam. To Mr. Arashi, you may now take over. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Muria. Thank you, Sahnas. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the panel discussion on Petroweek 2020. My name is Arasi. I will be your moderator for today, and I'm speaking from my home here in Balikpapan. First of all, thanks to our sponsors, which makes today's event possible. On behalf of the committee, many thanks for joining us today from wherever you are in the world. I hope all of you are in a good condition, stay healthy. Today, in this very special webinar, we will touch on the topic of applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. Since the Industrial Revolution, the oil and gas industry has played a very important role in the economic of the world, filling the need of heat, light, mobility of the world's population. And today, oil and gas industry has the opportunity to redefine its boundaries through digitalization. After a period of falling crude price that we have just seen early this year, digitalization will enable us to act as an enabler to tackle these challenges and provide beneficial value, which will be discussed in today's discussion. So I would like to explain a little bit about the panel discussion format. We will have 5 speakers as they have been introduced by the MC. They will speak around 10 to 15 minutes for each speakers, and then it will be followed by Q&A session. At the end of all presentation, roughly we will have around 1 hour or 1.5 hours. And then there will be a door prize after the Q&A session. So we encourage you to stay until the end of the panel discussion. And there are several common rules for the panel discussion as we are on an online platform. So please turn off your microphone during presentation so we can have a clear and nice explanation from the speaker. It's okay if you want to turn on your video. It's up to you if you want to turn off. Since there will be 5 presentations in the beginning, feel free to type your question in the chat box anytime you want. If you have something come up in your mind, just type directly since it will be quite long presentation. The question will be sorted by moderator and will be delivered to each speakers for answers. Should the opportunity arise, I will let several participants to directly ask to the speakers about their question. So, I am delighted to introduce all our panelists today. We have a great speaker lined up for you today. Our very first speaker is Mr. Pandey Susanta. He is a country manager for Far East of NESR Indonesia. He holds petroleum engineering degree from ITB and then MBA from Heriot-Watt University and Edinburgh Business School. He has over than 20 years of experience in oil and gas industry, more than two decades, and then start his career in Schlumberger in early 2000 up to 2014. And then he continued with NPS Energy in 2015 and currently with NESR since 2018. Joining Mr. Pandey, we will have Mr. Ardian Nengkoda. He is lead facilities development from Aramco. He holds PhD degree in chemical engineering and has also experience more than 20 years in oil and gas industry. Previously worked for petroleum development in Oman, Shell, Schlumberger, and Unocal. And since July 2012, he is working for Saudi Aramco and now he is based in Dhahran. He is very active in SP International. Maybe you know him also quite active in LinkedIn and speaker in many webinars. He is an international award-winning recipient of 2015 SPE Regional Project Facilities and Construction in Abu Dhabi. He is also a member of editorial committee for the GPT SPE International and technical advisor for offshore facilities for 2018 to 2020. And now he is also currently selected as the SPE International Distinguished Lecture Committee for 2020 to 2023. Our next speaker will be Mr. Agung Pratama. He is a drilling manager from Petronas. He holds petroleum engineering degree from ITB Indonesia and MBA University of Constance, Germany, with 17 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. He started his career in Schlumberger up to 2018. I've been very active in various countries, Brazil, Middle East, Russia, Indonesia, and then continued with Saka Energy as senior drilling engineer, and currently he is with Petronas since 2019. And then we have Miss Deva Tasya Ulita. He is currently a reservoir engineer from Schlumberger. He also holds petroleum engineering degree from ITB Indonesia and Master of Science from Imperial College London. She has 4 years experience in oil and gas industry. She started her career as researcher in LAPI Bandung and then continue with Schlumberger after graduated from Heriot-Watt since 2018 up to today. And then currently, she is responsible for supporting reservoir simulation for various oil companies in Indonesia. Our final speakers, we have Miss Cindy Hairunisa. She is facilities engineer and digital enablement lead from ExxonMobil, hold electrical engineering degree from University of Indonesia, and Master of Science in Electronics from University of Edinburgh in UK, Scotland. So that's our lineup for speakers today. Now, I would like to invite all participants to listen and engage in our discussion. Feel free to voice your opinions on today's topic because that's what we want for our panel discussion. After the presentation, we will open the floor for you, for the audience, for the question and answer session. Okay, so without further ado, let us welcome our very first speaker, Mr. Pandey Susanta. The floor is yours, sir.
So, good morning, everyone. I'll start the day with wishes to all of you to be healthy amid the current situations in COVID-19. So I encourage all of you to always follow the health protocols from the government, and especially for us who's in Jakarta and generally in Indonesia. As we all know, the situations are still very concerning. So let us ensure that we keep the health protocols. So digitalizations, it has been very big hype in the last probably 10 years. And I'll go through some slides that probably explains where we are based on my experience and my opinions, and how can we benefit from the digitalizations in oil and gas industry. So okay, there you go. This is the topic that the committee have chosen, and I think it's a very, very relevant topic, especially these days, where not only the oil and gas industry are using the digital technology, but almost everyone in all aspects of our life are using digital technology. Next slide, please. Just to make sure that we will have a good voice broadcasting, I will turn off my camera. I think it has some issues on the connectivity. So feel free, if you have any questions, like what Mr. Arasi said, you can put it on the chat box, or you can just stop me at any time. By definitions, the digitalizations is the use of digital technology to change the business models and provide new revenue and value producing opportunity. So it's not something new. It's evolutionary process that has been well underway across industry for some time. Probably you have heard more of a digital things than the analog, especially for, I mean, the generations, millennia, the generation X, the generation Z, and the generation to come. Today, if we ask our children or our younger generations about mobile phone or phone in general, they'll be surprised to see a phone with analog dials. There was a YouTube video where kids was asked to make a phone call using the analog phone, and they could not figure it out, right? That's the world we are living in now, is the world of digital. Next slides, please. However, if we looked at our industry, the oil and gas industry, and put it on the chart of digital maturity, comparing it with other industry, surprisingly, we are at the lower 10%, or maybe 20%. It depends on which industry you put in the chart, right? But this is the survey that has been done by McKinsey. And you see highlighted in orange, that's oil and gas. We are just a little bit ahead of the public sectors, which is the governments, all the public sectors. But we are way behind telecom, way behind the media, way behind the tourism industry. And simply, it's not, I mean, it is not wrong, but it's just that we could probably benefited more from the digital technology. So, and that's what I would like to discuss today with the panelists and with the audience on how can we get more benefit from the digital technology for our oil and gas industry. Next slide, please. So here, just an examples of one technology in oil and gas, which is very relevant to us, and especially for Nesser, the company that I work for. On the left, and this is picture taken from one of the first wireline logging company in the world, and this is back in the 1850s or the 1900s, right? You see the equipment that was used Of course, the picture is gray, black, and white, right? And at the bottom of it, that's the type of data that was collected during that times. Very simple, and it is analog. Now, 50 years later, 1950, the truck or the wireline truck looks a little bit better, and the number of lines or sensors getting more and more. So that's 50 years. It took 50 years. And by that time, 1950, the technology that's been utilized or used in oil and gas compared to other technology, it's among the so-called high-tech. Many of our equipments are similar to the equipment used in the Apollo missions, right, by NASA or by others militaries. So oil and gas have adopted technology from a very, very beginning. Now move forward to recent years in 2000s. Well, for the same services, for the same technology of wireline logging, and I'm sure you are familiar or maybe aware of it, right? This is the technology we use, or the industry use to identify the reservoir or to identify the fluid in the reservoir, and basically to see what is beneath our feet, what is in the well. And yes, the logging truck looks better. The number of lines in a logging tools getting more and more and more crowded. It's more colorful. And it's not only done just by a wireline engineer going to the fields, but it's also connected to centralized data centers in the client office or in the service provider office to help the field engineer to get better quality data from loggings. So there are interactions between the fields and the office and clients on real-time basis. And if you see the type of data move from analog to digital, and then it got connected. So that's a good examples of digital technology that has been implemented in oil and gas industry. Now, if we dig deeper, what are the components of digitalizations? Next slides, please. So there are sensors, right? These are the interface or the devices or the apparatus that used for indicating the physical aspect of things. Temperatures, for instance, pressures, right? And there are also sensors of many, many things, flow. So sensors has been around in oil field for a long time, since 1900, basically. The first logging job was done using sensors. And then there are connectivity. So components of digitalizations, there are sensors. This is to convert data from analog to digitals, and then you have connectivity. The connectivity has been done through different communication protocols. If you read or if you learn about communication protocols, probably you are very familiar with HTTP, right? Or a different type of protocol, HTML. So that type of protocols for internet connections, it's probably just 20 years old, right? Maybe not too long ago. But before then, there has been a lot of communication protocols, UART and different protocols, which connect the sensors to the computers. Then there is also automations. So once you have the sensors connected to you, and you need to do something based on that information. Initially, based on the data gathered from the sensors connected to you, you make decisions. Either you open the valve or close the valve, or you increase the temperatures, lower the temperatures, and so on, right? But it still was done manually by a labor or people. Then comes automations. So once you do these cycles, you have data connected to you, you automate, And the data, it's keep flowing, right? And to the point that you have big data. And what to do with this data? People start analyzing it. So there is a data analytic. And from this data analytic, you start seeing patterns from the data. Then you learn something from this data. But the data is so huge and repetitive that you need a machine to learn from it. Then you have machine learning. Then the machine becomes smarter and smarter, and it come up with its own artificial intelligence. So those are the component of digitalizations. And again, many of these components, if it's not all, has been utilized in oil field for many, many years. Tens of years, I mean, probably since the beginning. Now, how can we create more value out of all these components? Is to integrate them. And it is another revenue or value creations opportunity. So this is where the definitions of digitalizations comes again, as I mentioned earlier. So you integrate all these sensors to create value. What can you get out of it? First, work-life balance. You know, if you see movie from the old oil field lifestyles or workers, they all seems to be working very hard, dirty, full with oils and dirt, right? But coming to recent years, the pictures or the movie from oil field, it's getting cleaner and cleaner, it's nicer. I think that's also affected by the utilizations of digital technology. What else? Of course, you can create more revenue. You integrate some things and you create opportunity, and therefore you can create revenue. Improve efficiencies with the automations, where before you need probably 10 people to do it, now you need only 1 person, plus robot or plus some robotics devices. Then you can reduce costs. And not only that, you can deliver your product, your services much faster. So in a nutshell, that's the process flow of digitalizations. Next slides, please. What are the challenges? So why are we still number 2 from the bottom? You know, if you refer to the previous chart of the maturity of digital technology in industry. I think the first challenge is commitment, and commitment from the management all the way up from the CEO, the shareholders, and the stakeholder of the company. And not only that, even though if the manager or the corporate is completely committed, you still need to change the cultures of your workforce. In oil fields, as you may aware, we've been trained, at least in the past, to work in silos. In silo means you need to be excellent in what you are doing and keep focus on what you are doing, and that's it, right? So maybe in our term, kacamata kuda, right? People been trained to work as a horse. I'm sorry for my language, but you know, I think that's how it was in the past. The third challenge is infrastructures. Infrastructures, what I mean is not only the sensors, not only the connectivities, not only, you know, roads and all, but a platform that will support your organization's transformations to digitalizations if it's not yet done. This requires big investment, big commitment, and it requires cultural change also. A very simple examples, and probably or naturally by force because of the conditions we are in now, many of people that I know, and it's not too far older or different generations. They've been forced to learn how to use digital technology to continue with their day-to-day work, right? And this is part of work from homes. You need to know how to use probably Microsoft Teams, and you need to know how to use SharePoint. And probably so, that tools, that technology was available to you from your organizations from before. And that goes, again, your culture and commitments. And the fourth challenge, and this is actually quite big in my opinions, is the regulations. I think one of the fundamental difference between us and the telecommunications industry, or even retail industry, if you're talking about the online market, right? The e-commerce. How come they are much more mature in terms of digitalizations compared to us? Probably we need to start not losing too much, but at least considering sharing. And this is need to be regulated, right? We need to collaborate. We need to have more players. And there you go, my last point on challenge, which is lack of competitions. Because we work in silo, we don't look at each other. We always live like in a bubble. And when it's good, it's good. You don't compare yourself to other or outside bubbles. And I think to a certain extent, our corporate cultures scared us to be creative when it comes to digital ideas. And of course, we always put safety as a number one. That goes without questions. But that should not hinder our creativity to be more creative on digitalizations. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the pillars of transformations for digitalizations? And this is based on my opinions and some key persons in the industry who've been doing the digital transformations. And I tried to put it into three pillars. First one is, again, go back to cultures, right? Before we even start investing into digitalizations, you need to step back and think about where to begin, where to start. And it starts with culture, leadership, commitment from management, and leadership from management. And also to encourage innovations. I mentioned earlier, we've probably been trained and groomed to work very focused without thinking about innovations. And I hope I make my point very clear to the audience, and I believe you will be the future task force of this industry, that the industry need to encourage innovations and give you education's platform to support your innovations. The second pillar is, okay, you now have the culture for digitalizations. And what do you use it for? So the second pillar is productivity. Of course, we are working in oil and gas as profit-oriented organizations and all. So we need to be productive. We don't do digitalization for the sake of digitals. So we need to digitize, because if you have to work with a bundle of papers and you have to carry it around wherever you go for a meeting, and that was very, very often like common practice like 15 years ago or 20 years ago when I started in oil industry. And compared to now, you just need to bring your tablet, right? Your probably lightweight laptop. So of course you will be more productive, and you can collaborate. You collaborate not only with your peers in the same organizations, but you can also collaborate with what traditionally called as competitors. Then you need to focus on quick win. I think this goes in all initiative, right? You need to show your gain, not just invest, 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 or spend, spend, spend. So what are the quick win in your organizations when you do digitalizations? And this could be as simple as share drive in SharePoint, where people use the same file. And you will be amazed number of mistakes that people made because of versioning of Excel sheet or versioning of contract drafts, right? Now with the technology we have today, you can put it in one place, one file, and you don't need to click the save button because it is there in the cloud. So that's the quick win. Now, what else? So national content or kandungan lokal or TKDN, that's the term we use in Indonesia. It's a very important component of this pillar. You have to be innovative, you need to encourage innovations, and you also have to develop the national capacity. And wherever you are today, right, I think it makes more sense to empower the national task force and encourage the national contents, because at the end, that will be more productive. You can save a lot of costs from importing the technology or putting your server abroad, right? And the third pillar is digital for customers. How can we benefit it from digitalizations when we come to customer interactions? Of course, this is very obvious. Right now you have WhatsApp, you have your client profile in your phone. In the past, you have to meet them physically and ask them for the business card. And that too, sometimes they don't give you a business card. Then you need to ask his name or his full names, right? Nowadays, with the digital world, you find his first and last name, you Google it or search in LinkedIn, you will find his profile. So better engagement, right? So you know your clients better before even you meet him or her personally. And then you can start thinking of his background, your background. How can you collaborate? How can you co-create or creating value together? So those are the three pillars in digital transformations, in my opinions. Next slide, please. Now, what do we do in Indonesia as NESR? So NESR, by the way, it's National Energy Services Reunited. It's quite new company, but we are growing at a very, very fast rate. We are listed in NASDAQ, and you can compare us to other company, and we are probably the fastest growing service company in oil industry. In Indonesia, one of the things that we always encourage is innovations and the national content. So these are sample of product of digitalizations that we built in-house in Indonesia. The first one, we call it DARA, and as you can tell from the names, right? DARA is Data Acquisition Real-Time Analyzer. This is a data acquisition system based on PLCs, and the PLC is available, even the best type of PLC is available in Indonesia, and you can have a programmer, and this is also nowadays most of young professionals, to a certain extent, they know how to program. And all we need to do, I mean, in my personal experience, is to encourage them, give them support, give them, tools to develop their skills, and they come up with amazing tools, right? I mean, if you are familiar with data acquisitions, this is top notch when it comes to specification, computing powers, connectivities. And since it is built in-house, we can customize it and we can share it. So we share this with others as well. The second one, it calls Elang, and this is evaluation software for wireline logging. So Elang stands for electronic logging, analysis, and graphics. So we go and do wireline logging job and use this software. We analyze the data, we can print the graphic and share it. It's not something new, as I said in the beginning. I mean, digitalization has been around for a long time, and this technology, it's also been around for a long time. The issue, in my opinion, it has been kept in silos and not been shared. And the cost of acquisitions for that technology become very high, or still very high. And how can we benefit it with digitalizations? Again, I said, we need to share. The last one is the wireline truck. And again, we built this in-house in Jakarta. Next slide, please. So this is my closing slides. And after this, I'll open or pass the floor to the moderators. So as organizations, NESR, we are committed. We have our Research and Innovation Center, and this is based in Saudi. And we are committed for digitalization technology. Thank you very much. So with that, I pass the floor to the moderators.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pande. Very interesting and very clear presentation. Thank you very much. So we will continue with our second presenter. Let us welcome Mr. Ardian Ningkonda. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Pulang kampung nih. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So my appreciation to all of you, and then well done. It's very excellent job from the organizing committee of the Petroweek. And then first of all, I would like to greeting my colleague from Trisakti University, the petroleum engineering faculty and management, and of course to my colleague Mas Arasi and Mas Pande as a speaker before me. So it's quite very interesting theme and topics, by the way. It's related to the digitalization, the benefit of this type of technology to our oil and gas industry. So it's an honor to be here with all of you. And then I will do my best to share about the data science. And then I will be straightforward. I will try my best to comply with the 15 or 20 minutes time given to me. So let me share my screen now. Okay, I believe you can see my screen now, right? Okay, so the title, I try to provoke a little bit. My colleague Mas Pande already shared why oil and gas industry are a little bit behind, not little bit, but far behind from the digitalization technology itself, in comparison to other industry. So does the data science really supporting oil and gas in terms of the exploration and productions? So that was the background, that was the heart of my presentation. So thank you to Mas Arasi who explained who am I. So Alhamdulillah, so far I've been within the industry for more than 23 years. And then I'm quite very active in the SPE. And then so far, working in Saudi Arabia in various, projects. I also used to work for Schlumberger, some of the service company around the world. And then I work, globally around the world. And then recently, right now, I serve for our SPE, Journal of Petroleum Technology. And then just around 2 months ago, I've been selected as a SPE International Distinguished Lecture Committee. So that's who am I. And then what I would like to share, basically, first of all, is about the background, about the problem statement, the current oil and gas trend. Pande already shared a little bit about the background, right? What is the trigger of this topic, this digitalizations? And then I will share a little bit deep why it's become trending right now. And then I would like to share also about the data science in comparison with the data analytics and also big data, and then also the framework and some of the case study, which is maybe will be very interested for all of you, our young student, our future leader. And then last, I will share the takeaway, the very simple things that you will remind from my presentations. So let us think. So I try to make everybody aware about our oil and gas industry. So within 1 barrel, around 42 gallons of oil, of the crude oil, there is a lot of things, a lot of benefit, which is improving and important for our lives. So of course, the majority of the 1 barrel crude oil, around 36%, is for the petrol, for the fuel oil, right? So that's why we are using it in our car, in our bus, in our truck, and so on. And then the rest, is of course is related to the diesel oil, which is been very useful for the truck, for the boat, for the ship, and so on. And then the rest of the 22% is a wax, a lubricant, the polish, which we are using in day-to-day life. And then if you realize that during this corona COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of product that we are using it, like hand sanitizer, cleaner, and so on, is coming from the crude actually. So it's coming from the refinery as product, the chemical from the crude oil. So a lot of stuff which is really benefiting to our life. So the very small question is there any replacement of this crude oil, right? So at the moment, as we speak, there is no 100% replacement to the crude oil. So the world, ourselves will still require, a need from the crude oil, because a lot of benefit that we can gain from the crude oil itself. So if you take a look again to the current situations on the global primary energy forecast, so this data is presented by IHS Markit just 2 months ago. So it's like, fresh from the oven. So basically it tells us that the world is changing, especially during this pandemic where people try to be at home, right? So we need to respect the protocol of the health, safety, and then we try to make ourselves, safe for our family, for our colleague, and so on. So the people mobility is not really many. So the demand of the using of this fuel are low, and then the industry a little bit slowed down. So there is a chance where I think you have heard that some of the oil company from Europe, like BP, Shell, Equinor, Total, Eni, best in Europe, they have a vision to transition themselves to become renewable, something like that. So we are moving forward to natural gas, and then renewable energy demand is quite increasing for predicted will be around 30 or 40 years ahead. But in reality right now, as we speak, oil is still really demanding. So people still need oil, something like that. So let us take a look a little bit why, as been mentioned by Mas Pande before, why this digitalization, the ICT is become high, it's become popular within the oil and gas industry or oil and gas community. So basically, of course, we know that oil and gas, they have a lot of benefit to our life, improving the economy, improve the life quality, and so on. But there is a new normal, we call it, right? The new normal means that, it's involving the technology, involving the way we work, the way we operate our operation, the way on. So the background of this digitalization, the ICT, the data science is coming from this new normal. But in fact, if you take a look, the common mistake that we always hear about the data science and data analytics is data science basically is the design, the construction of the new process, which is involving, the oil and gas modeling and so on, to using the algorithm, the predictive model, the custom analysis, and so on. So what is the difference with the data analytics is basically data analytics mentioning about, the process of examining the large data sets to identify, the process, the visualization, the presentation of, making the decision-making process become more easier. So now, if we put the big data, of course, we are a little bit confusion now. What is the data science? What is the data analytics? And what is the big data? So in very simple words, if you heard about the Python, about the SQL, right? SES, that was the tools, the software that we are using for the data science. If you are talking about the R, Tableau, Public, that was the tools for the data analytics. If you are talking about the big data, it's structure. It's a lot of, structured or unstructured data, where typically the software like Hadoop and NoSQL, Hive, that was the big data. So in very simple word, to differentiate between the data science, data analytics, or big data, you can see, the software, how does it look like, or the application area. So this is the how to differentiate between the data science, data analytics, or big data. Now, let us take a look little bit. Back to 200 years ago, that was the mother, the origin of the data science. So 200 years ago, I believe, you students still learn about the calculus, right? Calculus 1, calculus 2, and so on. So that was the mother of the data science. So we are talking about the data, we are talking about the visualization, we are talking about the mathematics, and so on. So the statistic, the growth from this data science from 200 years ago to nowadays is quite very massive. Nowadays, this data can be generated, become AI, become machine learning, and so on and so on. So basically, this is the data science history, which is presented by Capgemini. So if you take a look again about the data science, what kind of techniques, right? So this is quite very interesting. Why we can, harvest this data science. So in data science, we are talking about the contextual analysis. We are talking about the math, statistic, probability. We are talking about the predictive analysis. We are talking about the machine learning, data mining, pattern recognitions, visualization, modeling, and so on. So this is the data science all about. Okay, don't be confused. So the purpose of the data science, in the end of the day, is to improve the decision-making process to make all of this, business run more efficient. So start with extracting the data and then analysis and processing, and after that, gain an insight about the data. So within ourselves, within the SPE, within the Society of Petroleum Engineers, we have a community. So it started around 6-7 years ago. So within our oil and gas community, we realized that a lot of benefit that we can gain, we can harvesting from the data, as a science. So we call it data science. And then we have a data science and digital engineering, community. So feel free to join, with our groups where we share, we learn together about the data science. As mentioned by Mas Pandey that, oil and gas industry are a little bit behind. But there is a reason of it, right? So why oil and gas industry is so behind in terms of the data science applications. So basically, if we put the chart, the matrix, within the value and also within the benefit itself, there's a process of the data, the description of the data growth. Start with the descriptive analytic, and then diagnostic analytics, and also predictive analysis. And after that, we can gain more insight, which is prescriptive analytics. So basically in data science, we are talking about what will happen, which is predictive, right? And then after that, how can we make it happen? So we call it about the prescriptive. And then if we take a look back a little bit, we call it business intelligence. What kind of diagnostic that we can perform? Why did it happen? And what happened? So that was the past, hindsight that we can learn from the data. So let us, go more detail, which is very interesting for all of us. That was, the previous 5-6 slides, little bit abstract. Now let us go a little bit deep about the oil and gas industry case study. So as mentioned, I think some of this part have been mentioned by Mas Pandey. So the ICT digitalization framework within our oil and gas can start from the explorations, and then also can be implemented during the development, reservoir development, field development, and engineering. And then it can also be expanded to operation and productions. And then if we take a look little bit during the process of the identification, exploration, seismic activity, GNG study, then goes to the next process, which is a field development process, and then until operation or productions, basically there is a lot of opportunity where data science or EI can be implemented. So in this graph, as you can see that the dark orange color explain the more opportunity where the data science or EI can be implemented and can give a lot of benefit. Like initial evaluation, reservoir exploration studies, that was more prone to the application of the data science. Data gathering, of course, that was more prone. And then, but don't forget that even during the field development and productions activities, there's more opportunity to use the data science or something like EI and so on. So this is one of the example of the data analytic example from the production profile. So data analytic can zoom more detail on a certain graph and explain what's going on. So this is just to give everyone awareness that if we zoom a particular event, we can understand more why it's happened. And this is one of the, I believe this is one of the best papers so far that I would like to share to all of you about the data science, about the EI, artificial intelligence based on the decline curve analysis or DCA, how we can manage the reservoir production performance based on a certain data. So the data been collected by our colleague in United States of America for about 50 to 60 years. So the data been collected by, of course, first of all, we need to loading the data. We need to, QA, QC the data. Then we need to clustering, the data and make some analysis. Then reviewing the event and then cross-validation, compare with the real life events and make a curve fitting type and generation and so on. So this is a methodology that very clear where we can gain a lot of benefit from the data science in terms of the performing the DCA, decline curve analysis. And then in the end of the study or in the end of the data analysis, we can estimate the EUR, which is the estimate best estimate ultimate recovery from the reservoir. So this is just to give everyone emphasize that a lot of benefit where we can use from the data science. So what is the takeaway? So there's some takeaway where I would like to share to all of us, and that I do agree with Mas Pandey before, that leadership, the management support and organization readiness, the culture is very important elements to make a success of data science and the added value. So bear in mind that this type of activities, this type of digitalization technology come with the cost. And then as you know that within the oil and gas facility, some of these facilities have been operated for more than 50 years. So they still have a lot of old, manual technology, conventional technology, where when they would like to gain a benefit from the new technology like digitalization, they need to put more capex, right? A capital expenditure. So the clear benefit need to be there, and then the agreement from the all stakeholder need to be there too. So the benefit of the data science in the oil and gas industry can be defined starting from the explorations, right? So first of all, the top ultimate basically to make a business optimization and more effective decision making. And then starting from exploration and discovery, production accounting, drilling completion, operation and maintenance. So this is the presentation that I would like to share with you, and I wish you enjoy my presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Ardian. It is very insightful. We found a lot of new information from you. So we will continue with the next speaker. We will have Mr. Agung Pratama. he will talk about a specific topic regarding digitalization in drilling topics. Please welcome Mr. Agung Pratama. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Pa Arashi, as the moderator. Also, I would like to thank you, the previous speaker before me, Pak Pande and Pak Ardian. Was very informative for sure, and I would like to tag on what has been discussed earlier. I would also like to thank all the sponsors and also Petroleum Engineering Department from Trisakti, all of the students, all of the committee, and also all of the distinguished lecturers and also the board management of the Petroleum Engineering Department. Can somebody help me to present the slide for my slides that I've already sent to the committee? Okay, before that, I would like to state that I've been in the drilling industry all of my career for about 18 years, and I can vouch that whatever that was said earlier from Mr. Pandey and Mr. Ardian is valid point. One of the key point to actually accepting the digital transformation, in my opinion, is the culture and the leadership. So with that in mind, I would like to take you in to what is happening at the moment in our oil and gas industry. Yeah? So when I joined this industry about 18 years ago, there was an economic crash at that time. I think the US dollars went to 20,000 per per Indonesian 20,000 Indonesian rupiah per $1 US. So I was scared. What's going to happen? How am I going to enter the industry? I think it's sort of happening at the moment also. That's why I will guide you through to what is happening currently in drilling by presenting what is called drilling cost efficiency through application of automation in current low oil market. Next slide, please. Yeah, with that in mind, one of the form of digitalization that is currently well known in its applicability in drilling is automation. So I will guide you through a couple of points of why we need automation in drilling industry. And then the second part will be the applications of automation in drilling. And then I will show you examples, real life examples of what we are currently doing in drilling. And then I will close with what's going to happen in the future of drilling. I mean, some of you that's going to be interested in entering the drilling industry will want to know what's the key takeaway, what is the future job of drilling industry is like. Yeah. May I ask to the committee, when or in what semester are you presented the drilling subject? Maybe some of the MC can answer. With that question, can somebody please move to the next slide on the operator? Mbak Syahnas or Mas MC, have you taken the drilling engineering subject?
Yes.
For you specifically?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you for that. So I would like to deliver this message from the top down, yeah, because I'm also part of the management team in my current company. What we see now to the barrier of entrance of the digitalizations or automation in the oil and gas industry is always cost, yeah. Especially now in the current low oil market, I'm gonna touch on two important jargon here. I think if you can just jot down, because some of you are still students. First one is unit development costs. So what is unit development costs? So basically what we all know as a lifting cost, basically. But in order to develop that, you will have a CapEx, yeah? Pak Ardian mentioned briefly about what CapEx is. So it's basically a capital expenditure. So basically if you're an investor in the oil and gas industry, you will ask, how much money do I need to put as a capital to come in? So in my previous experience, also currently, basically the CapEx is divided to two main capital expenditure. One is the well cost. Second is the facilities, because once you drill it, you know there is oil and gas, hydrocarbon beneath the surface, then you will need to bring it to surface, yeah? That is where the facilities comes in. I think later on, but Cindy will touch on what facilities digitalizations current happening is. So that will be in line, yeah? So both of them is gonna be the one that makes the CapEx in oil and gas industry. So I'm teaching a bit about economics and oil and gas 101. And then with that in mind, you will have to basically go back to the reserves. What Pak Ardian mentioned, how many reserves do the oil and gas subsurface reservoir has in place, and how many we can take it out? Yeah. So basically, the unit development cost is the money needed to produce 1 barrel of oil. Yeah. Even if it's gas, you will just make it as an equivalent of barrel of oil. Now, there is a second KPI that is important to my industry, which is the drilling industry. That is called well cost per foot. So basically, in essential, you're making a hole down beneath the surface of the earth, right? You need to know how much you're gonna spend, let's say US dollars, per foot of the wells drilled. I know it's gonna be different in terms of where it is gonna be located. Is it offshore? Is it onshore? Is it deep water? And then is it gonna be high pressure, high temperature? Is it gonna be an extended reach type drilling? Is it gonna be you need all of the equipments? But basically, you draw the benchmark for all of the operators in the oil and gas industry. It's well cost per foot. They will judge you by how much you spend per well. Yeah. So basically, the definition is money spent to create a foot of an oil and gas well. Yeah. Can we move to the next slide? So this is still just. Can you hear me? Okay. Can we move to the next slide? Hello. Yeah. Okay. So if you're an asset owners, let's say, oh, sorry, go back one slide to, okay. So if you're an asset owner, you have a problem, right? When you're drilling, especially in my current project, we're drilling development wells that is already reaching out to the extended reach type, which is the ratio of the measured depth to the ratio of the measured depth to the true vertical depth is over 2 to 1. So you always have problem when you're drilling sideways. You have a downhole tool breakdowns. You have drilling time delay. Even though you can drill it fast, but whenever you pull it out, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna pull it out. Let's say 1 day drilling, you're gonna pull it out in 2 days or even 3 days. And one of the big issue is also stick and slip. Whenever you're drilling sideways, you're creating more and more dynamics to what's happening in terms of your bottom hole assembly. And then in the end, you will have a BHA that is left in hole. We call that a stuck pipe or a fishing hole. That is a very big amount. Usually in one BHA, you can spend a minimum of $1 million up to $8 million. Yeah. So in terms of oil and gas industry, you can actually use automation. Yeah. I would like to go back to the definitions that was laid out earlier by Pak Pandey and also Pak Artian, that in drilling, I think automation is the key. Yeah. Of the digitalization, because we have used digitalizations way back when, yeah, even when we start faxing out reports from the field with the fax, because that's basically the simplest form of digital. But now we want to use automation to reduce stick and slip. But this will mean more investment because the automation tools are not cheap, yeah. They're not low dollars, they're high dollars. So basically, this is to determine whether the automations is an effective method to reduce the overall cost or not. Because remember what I said earlier, we need to be able to lift the barrel of oil with the the minimum cost possible. Yeah. Next slide, please. So I would start with some definitions. Yeah, I mentioned earlier about stick and slip. So whenever you go sideways, you go drilling horizontal and extended reach, you will have problems. Yeah. So I take the definition from the Baker Hughes standpoint. They're one of the service company that is quite keen on digitalizations and automations in drilling. So they say when torsional vibrations cause the rotation of the bit or BHA to slow or even stop. That's why they call it sticking, because it stops rotating. Yeah. But the drill string above that continues to rotate. So imagine if you're drilling 2 kilometers or maybe even 10 kilometers well, yeah, and then some of the portion is actually laying on the horizontal side. So it's very hard to transmit torsion to the bottom, yeah. So that's why it's called a stick and slip. So the key message here is removing stick slip altogether, so making it zero, is nearly impossible. By minimizing its severity is implementable through drilling automation. So I took a very good definition, be it Wikipedia, but you know, sometimes free sources is a good source. Yeah. Today, drilling automation involves the linking of surface and downhole measurements. Yeah. By saying measurements, meaning like what Pandey mentioned earlier, there's a lot of sensors. Yeah. At the moment, I think on a drilling rig, there's like close to 100 or maybe 200 sensors, yeah, that we have that is aiding us in having a very efficient and optimized drilling performance. So you have a surface and also a downhole measurements, yeah, sensors with near real time if you understand all the jargons, you will probably Google it out later on, that you cannot really have a real-time operations, because whatever that you have, it's going to be already too late anyway. There's a lag and then latency. So it's going to be near real-time predictive models, as what Ardian mentioned also, to improve the safety. I want to highlight safety here, because if you're from a management standpoint, if you're looking at costs, and also you have a safety on the other hand, you will always go for safety. So that is why it's very critical to actually implement digitalizations or optimizations and automation in industry, in this oil and gas industry, if we bring the safety point in this equation. So move to the next slide. So again, I took a very good chart from Baker Hughes here. This is the, you can say, the cradle to the grave of what drilling is all about, yeah? You plan the well initially, that is the first pillar, and then the second pillar is you execute the well once you have the plan, and then the third well is you evaluate what happens after you drill the well. So actually, it all covers the automation and digitalization is already covering all of the aspect or the three pillars of planning a well, yeah? Next slide. So this is what is currently is being done. From the management standpoint, how much is the cost to actually apply automation? Yeah, this is the three technology that we are currently looking at. I think I can pass on these slides later on because there's no confidentiality issues to the committee, and then you can probably learn more on this. I didn't put any brand name here, but the first one is the self-adjusting PDC bit. So there's a lot of jargon here to take on, but later on you will understand. This is a basic form of automation, because when you go through drilling, you will see a lot of difference in lithology. Yeah? So if you have a very good self-adjusting PDC bit that you can drill from shoe to shoe, we say, so basically the whole section will be drilled in one bit, that is a very good application, even though the cost, yeah. Again, all of the costs, automation and everything is going to be coming back to the cost of the application itself. And the second one is the anti-stick slip technology. Also, again, this is an automation type tool that you put in the bottom hole assembly that later on it can actually minimize the stick and slip, yeah. And then again, the last tool is actually the one that we have on surface. So you know, some of you maybe already know we have a top drive system at the surface, which provide torsional forces down to the drill string. And then this is basically a tool up in the surface that have a algorithm to actually detects whatever the torsional value from the bottom and then just evens it out. I would analog this tree application to be like if you're a conductor conducting an orchestra. The number one self-adjusting PDC bit will be the low notes that he's trying to tackle, maybe the trombone or whatever in the bottom. And then you have the anti-stick slip technology, which covers the whole frequency of the stick and slip, because the major factor in the stick and slip is the frequency. Yeah? The harmonics are all off. That's why. So this is the covering of all the music equipment from the orchestra. And then the surface soft torque will handle the minute, the lower numbers, yeah, the very small micro numbers of vibration. So again, like an orchestra, you will need a conductor, and then you will need all of the musical instruments player to be able to achieve success. So next one, next slide, please. So this is an example of how much does it cost, yeah. So we put in 4 costs basically. So again, base case is you don't apply anything, because as I said earlier, the culture of the drilling industry is very hard. Whenever you want to apply a new technology, the guys on the field will just say, why? This is not normal. What we have done previously is not like this. So the base case is no investment, but then you will have a risk of having a tool in the hole, left in the hole. Case 1 is only applying one. Case 2 is only applying one of the others. And then 3 is also applying one of the others. And then the case 4 is combination. And we didn't look at other cases whereby we may have only 2 combinations or not. But as I said earlier in my analogy, it's like a orchestra, symphony orchestra. Yeah? So you're trying to choose whichever will create the perfect harmony. Yeah? Next slide. I'm just going to go through this rather quickly because this is just basically, I think this is not important also if you just go to the next slide. One more slide, please. Yeah, so I just want to touch on that some of the conclusion, yeah, the study have shown that the initial investment takes only a small part, because when you're drilling a well, let's say a $10 million well, yeah, this is a land rig probably or a jackup well, perhaps the amount of software or the amount of tool that I just mentioned earlier, it's only going to be a very small part of the overall well cost. Yeah, let's say well cost per foot. But the amount of saving it can have, yeah, like the avoidance cost. That's what we always use in the term avoidance cost, to avoid having stuck pipe, to avoid having people killed. Again, safety is the number one issue. So spending high investment on drilling automation is obviously a way to go. Even though in the overall scheme of the well cost, perhaps if you're spending 10 million, you're only going to spend less than 1 million. Even for all three of the equipment that I have mentioned earlier, it's only going to be about maybe less than 10% or sometimes less than 5% of the overall well cost. Yeah, but it's the benefit that it's bringing. Yeah, the automation. And then the study sees the success of reducing stick slip merely by increasing ROP to improve drilling time. ROP is basically the penetration rate. Yeah. So next, so what the key message here is that if you want to do stuff safely and economically, you want to do it safely the first time. So that is a key message. You don't want to redo it again, and then having problems later on. Yeah. So the key to be efficient and effective is to do it right at the first time. With that in mind, you won't have any safety issues, inshallah, and then you won't have any downhole failure that's lead to stuck pipe. Next slide, please. So this is another key slide that I want to present to you guys. Of course, sources from Baker Hughes. So again, this is the types of job that you're going to see for you future leaders later on. Yeah. Again, the key is to have enhanced production on the top right side, and then optimize outcomes, and then predictive performance. That's what Pak Ardian mentioned. Yeah. You need to have a lot of data, a big data, for us to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. Again, there is where machine learning comes in, and then you have a digital twin, analytics, and then the physical environment. That is the safety aspect of it. You're trying to remove the physical environment out of the equation. Of course, you have to rely a lot on the connectivity, on the cloud system, on the communications between the field side and where the data is being crunched at. So again, the bottom line is the service delivery, and you want it to be an automated execution, yeah, like the factory line, like the assembly line of the cars of the automotive industry. Again, going back to what Pak Pande mentioned, we are like in the top two from the bottom. Yeah, that's very pathetic in my opinion. I think we should be higher up. Yeah, and that is where we are. All of us. It's the job for all of us, including you guys. That will be future leaders in the industry to take the mantle and then proceed forward. Yeah. Next slide. I think that will be the last slide of my presentation. The next one. So again, the key to the safety aspect of it is you will have a lot of sensors. As I said, now it's already 100 and 200. Maybe you need thousands of sensors to be able to have a big data, and then to be able to have a predictive measurements. Yeah. So again, with that in mind, you will have a minimum to none people on the rig. There is a very good case study from Equinor that was presented by Baker Hughes. They actually drilled a well with no service company on site. So they drilled a well remotely, and it's not a very cheap well and simple well. It's a complex well that you have to go sideways, you have to go horizontal. So the key is to get people off the rig. But again, you shouldn't be worried, yeah, because at the beginning I said when I entered the market, it's very tough industry to enter. You will always have other jobs, yeah. At the moment, if Pak Ardian mentioned earlier, you have to know all the jargons. You have to learn Python. You have to learn data science. Even me, as a drilling engineer previously and a drilling manager now, I keep learning every day. This is your opportunity, young gentlemen and young ladies out there, that you are isolated with the COVID pandemic, but you can learn a lot of stuff digitally. You can learn Python, you can learn a new language of the programming, but all of that will be required in the future. So even though you couldn't be a field technician on site, but you will have a better and a safer, and in fact, you can be close with your family and loved ones by doing this new type of job description. Yeah. Again, remote operations from technology hub where multidisciplines are present. So not only drilling guys will be there, maybe some like Pak Ardian, like Mbak Diva later on, some of the geologists, some of the geophysics will be also there in the remote technology hub. This is where all operators are going to be spending most of their capital, yeah, in the future. So they will have, they will build technology hubs. That is, this is for the multinational and international, of course. But if you're a national company, maybe you'll just build one technology hub that is have a very good infrastructure in terms of communications and internet connection, and then you will just work remotely from there. even collaboratively. Imagine if you see a, I always analog this with the mission control of Houston. Let's say if NASA wants to launch a, what do you say, a rocket out there, it will take about hundreds of people sitting in the same room. So imagine that's what going to be a technology hub will be. Yeah, that is the aim. And again, economic wise, we want lower well costs. When I mention single digit, meaning less than 10 million. Usually it only happens in onshore operations, but nowadays Chevron in Thailand and Gulf of Thailand already showed us that they can drill a well safely, efficiently, only within 3 or 4 days. Yeah. In fact, the cost also is very low. They call it a factory line or a factory assembly drilling, yeah, where everything is known, everything is mapped out, the risk is mapped out, and becoming a more efficient and safer operation. I think that is my last slide, and thank you for everyone that is observing this. And then I pass it back to the moderator, Mas Arash.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agung. It's a very interesting subject on how to save drilling costs. So we will move on to the next speakers. We have Mbak Deva. She will talk about, previously we have talked about topic in drilling. Now she will talk about how digitalization in geoscience subject. Please welcome Ms. Deva. The floor is yours.
Hi, yes, thank you. I hope you can hear my voice clearly. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. So first of all, I would like to say good morning, everyone. I hope you're all in good condition, safe and sound, working at home. I'm deeply humbled by the opportunity to present at Petroweek Grand Seminar. You know, I am actually the most junior one in the panelist today. So I think I'm going to give you like a millennial perception of how digitalization works in the oil and gas industry nowadays. So a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm working in Schlumberger. I'm a global help desk RE support for Eastern Hub. I did my bachelor's degree in ITB and moving on to master's degree at Imperial College London. So this is just a brief introduction, and I put on my LinkedIn there so that if you guys have any questions after this session and you would like to address it directly to me, you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. Just drop me a message and I will reply to you guys. Okay, so let's begin by taking a look at the life cycle of oil and gas fields, right? So there are 3 main stages. The first one is exploration, development, and then the last one is production. And within each stage, there are many detailed decision-making processes to operate a field. And the challenge in each stage are very different. So for example, in exploration, you would like to minimize your capital expenses. And then in the development stage, you would like to maximize production. And then later on during production time, you would like to extend asset life. So one of the main focus area in today's world that could potentially support operators to resolve these challenges is through utilizing digital technology. But sometimes, as you guys have heard from the previous speakers, it is quite common in people's perception that our industry, the oil and gas industry, has been quite slow in adopting digital technology if you compare it to other industries. And with my presentation, you will actually see how actually digital technology has been employed by many operators worldwide and has proven to significantly help them in operating their field. Okay. So as can be seen here, in the left side of the slide, there's a potential promise of the digital that introduce significant capex and opex efficiencies. You can see in the exploration, well construction, development and planning and production stages. It has a potential range of impact up to 35% and a potential saving from $60 billion to $290 billion. You know, and this is not only based on Schlumberger's experience, but also from other operators' reports. So for example, in one of the operator months of seismic processing, as you guys know, probably there are geophysicists present in this session. You guys know that seismic processing takes so much time. And by doing it digitally, it's effectively accessing unlimited computer power. And this is what I'm going to explain more later on. What is this cloud system and how we can collaborate cross-domain, I will explain later on. But essentially, by using cloud, you can save months of 3D seismic processing to just an account of weeks or even days. For example, in one of the operator, it has helped them to discover more than 150 million barrels of oil beneath complex substructure, salt structure. And then many more later on, I will also touch base on that. Okay, so basically, there's a promise of digital, and we know this not only for the oil and gas industry, but also from other industries. But you know, the oil and gas needs to catch up with the digital technology, and I will present to you how the digital has helped oil and gas industry so far through this tool. So I'm going to explain to you guys the tools that has been used by the oil and gas industry, the operators, okay? All right, so we are now globally more connected than ever before. You know, recent estimates say that the world has moved from 500 million connected devices, such as phones or tablets or computers, to 8 billion today. And this gives rise to new opportunities and transformational business models. And the oil and gas industry has a proud history of meeting challenges with technology innovation. And today, across the industry, we see companies reinvent their landscape with the use of digital technology to drive business value. And this is exactly what we have done in Schlumberger. So we are using the power of digital technology to improve the performance of the operators, which is through a business-led, technology-driven approach. So, okay, so we have many centers. We have many research centers around the world, from, for example, here, but for the digital technology, we actually have one in the Silicon Valley. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the millennials all know that all the startups companies are based on Silicon Valley. All right. So the digital technology side has developed. Okay, first they have developed greatly over the last decades. And there are new elements to digital technology mix that have helped amplify the range of technologies that exist. Connectivity, computer power, deep learning are just some of the areas that has been disrupted. The players in this space have also changed. You know, there are now more small companies, small startups that are actually doing their job in the digital technology for oil and gas company. You know, and these technologies are used to answer the challenges or to answer the industry goals. You know, on the right hand side here, you can see what are the industry goals. I'm sure you're familiar with this. The top level thinking and goals in this new medium for longer environment are to achieve more efficient exploration process, to ensure quality reserves grow, and then also to manage risk and ensure development activity through either field development or capital projects delivery. And of course, we want a profitable production driven by lowering lifting costs, as mentioned by Mas Agung before, that you know, the main objective in the drilling industry is to lower the lifting cost, and ultimately all is aimed to deliver superior return on investment for the customers, for the operators. Okay. And so we connected our technical customer base and began discussing and evaluating, what are the problem areas that we could target with solutions that have material impact. And we have found this through the experiments and proof of concept projects and collaboration. And by far, our best results came when these technologies were brought together, connected via domain knowledge. So a deep technical understanding that allowed the problem itself to be described, enriched, and the technology to be shaped and focused and controlled to deliver a clear impact or outcome. So by what it means by domain knowledge. So in the oil and gas industry, right? It's not only petroleum engineers, it's not only reservoir engineers, drilling engineers. You are working with much bigger people with different backgrounds. It can be petrophysicists, geologists, geophysicists, even economists. Okay, it says here that the internet connection is unstable. I hope you can still hear my voice or see my screen. All right, so probably I'm going to stop my video just to enable more connectivity. Okay, you can still hear my voice, right? All right, so as I said before, in the oil and gas industry, you're working not only with petroleum engineers, reservoir engineers, but with all different kinds of people with different backgrounds. So we needed a simple way to connect the technology to the problem. And I'm presenting to you Delphi. Delphi is a collaborative space. It's an environment that connects all players and activities across the oil field lives, in the oil field lives. So only when we connect the digital side with a deep understanding of domain and then wrapped it all up in a unified canvas or a unified platform, do we have a chance of impacting the top level goals for the operators. So I'm going to present to you Delphi. So Delphi is an environment, it's a platform where all the players, where all the engineers, geologists, geophysicists could collaborate in the same space, in the same platform. Okay, oops. Right, so what is Delphi? Yeah, Delphi is a cognitive ENP environment. It's a secure, scalable, open, and fully managed cloud-based environment, providing seamless ENP software technology across exploration, development, drilling, production, and midstream. So in the slide, as you can see, this is the Petrel logo. I'm pretty sure the students are familiar with this sign because you are all I think you guys have the reservoir characterization subject where you guys study about reservoir simulation and you are using Petrel. And then there's also Olga for flow assurance and Trisakti for reservoir simulation, and also Eclipse and so on and so forth. So I think the SPE Trisakti comes to Wisma Mulia once or twice before, where you guys are given presentation and workshops on how to utilize Petrel RE, Trisakti, and Eclipse. So guys, what's the difference is that you are not going to utilize the software in your machine anymore, but you're going to use Delphi, which is you can reach Delphi through a common web searcher such as Google Chrome or Mozilla. So it's not going to depend on your computer or your local machine capability, but you only need a high-speed internet, and you can use Petrel, Trisakti, and Eclipse, and other Schlumberger softwares online. All right. So this is just a picture to show how the oil and gas industry works. Just from traditionally it follows a linear stage, so from discovery. So for example here, I don't know if you can see my pointer. Here we go. So previously from the seismic, you got this idea of how the subsurface looks like, and then you're going to first oil all the way through the platform, and then you produce, and then you go to the surface facilities and so on and so forth, and all the way until the abandonment. Yeah, and this process has been guarded by stage gates where decision points are set to decide whether and how to move on within the project, right? Through increased integration over the last 10 years, we have pushed efficiency of this linear approach. And with Delphi, we wanted to elevate efficiency to a whole new dimension to create new, more powerful ways of working. Oops. Uh-oh. Right. So Delphi is structured around seamless planning to operations, delivering extensive integration and connectivity across the exploration and production lifecycle. So more tightly connecting planning and operation workflows, you can give drilling engineers and drillers new ways to collaborate, updating plans with operational inputs in a near real-time period, which in turn generate dynamically optimized plans to further improve operational efficiency and reduce risk. And for example, geoscientists can exchange relevant information with significantly reduced turnaround and higher fidelity. So it reduces uncertainty and unlock new opportunities as well. So all collaborators, the drilling engineers, the geophysicists, the petrophysicists, and so on and so forth, are collaborating via united holistic environment. So it's a single version where all plans and all models are united, and the model itself, it becomes evergreen. What it means, evergreen is when you update things constantly, you know, so you are not only depending on one model, you can actually update the model through time with inputs from all of the collaborators or players. Okay. So the Delphi itself is actually developed based on the demand from the clients, from the operators, and it helped them from the initial stage, from exploration, from appraisal, all through until it's developed and produced, you know. And once we have all the data, so first of all, we need to make sure that the operators they have all the data based in the Delphi environment, right, in the Delphi data ecosystem, so that we can collaborate through the Delphi. And this eliminates, by using Delphi, it eliminates lengthy cycles of, you know, data gathering, quality control. You know, some clients and some operators can even spend 4 to 9 months acquiring data across their own portfolio, and it takes too much time. By delaying time, you're ultimately going to lose money because you're not producing your field. So we want to make sure that the operators get more information and in a fast-paced manner, so that they can decide much earlier, and therefore they can save every barrel that they want to produce. And using this Delphi, as you can see here, so for example, yeah, the corporate plan, they have this restriction, you know, and they have this constraint. Okay, the oil, because of the oil price volatility, they want to see how it impacts the production, for example, or the FD plan, the field development plan. They want to see it directly. So, you know, previously the management would contact the reservoir engineer team lead, and then the team lead would contact the reservoir engineers and ask them to do simulations and ask them to produce the report of how a certain scenario looks like. But through Delphi, actually the management could contact directly to the reservoir engineers and ask them, and the result from the reservoir engineers could be sent directly to the to the corporate people, to the management. So it saves so much time. You know, through the connectivity, there's no barrier or a certain stage of contacting people, your team lead, your management, your manager. It saves so much time because you're working all under the same roof or under the same platform. Okay. Right. So as a reservoir engineer, I'm a reservoir engineer and I work with the petrotechnical people. So they use these softwares, right? So previously they use it in their own local machine or their own computer or the company's computer. So they use this on a daily basis, and they have restrictions. And I will share to you what are the restrictions of using your own local machine compared to using these softwares via Delphi. This is just, once again, I want to reiterate that the Delphi environment is very efficient, that because it connects people from all backgrounds that are operating on the field, from geoscience, drilling, reservoir, production, economics, and even data science people or data analytics people. They have access to use Delphi and connect with people. Okay, actually, I've been told that I've presented. Okay, so basically, you guys get the idea that Delphi is the one platform where you can connect people from all different backgrounds in the oil and gas industry. Okay, in the operator. This is just an example. As a reservoir engineer, I deal with simulation all the time, and it is sometimes limited because I have a limited number of CPUs in my machine. So by using Delphi, you can actually increase your efficiency because you can have 100,000 CPUs working at the same time. It's running in a cloud. It's 200 times faster, and your simulation results would come up faster. Therefore, you can have your decision much faster as well. Okay, this is just a comparison of what it's like to simulate using your local machine compared to Delphi. So there's no gap, there's no cap, for the CPU machines, and then there's no delayed job, so you can have it more update once an updated model more earlier, and it's you can use Delphi for a lot of simulators, for example, Intersect, Eclipse, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is just another example. There's actually a video, but I'm not going to play that. So as you can see here, that the scenarios are given on this side. As you can see, that if you want to test it, you can test it, and then all the members of your team could see the result. Okay. And Delphi itself has been used by many operators because we are collaborating with Microsoft Azure and Google, and they have data hub in all these areas. And in Indonesia, actually, they're going to have it. This year, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to have it in Jakarta. So we're going to engage clients more to use Delphi in Indonesia. This is just some of the success stories in reservoir engineering. Yeah, so they use. Usually, they have in Australia, for example, there's 6 months project. It's completed within a week because thousands of simulations can be done on the cloud more. In a very short period of time, and then in Scandinavia and so on and so forth, as you can see in the slide, that the amounts of simulations are significantly reduced by using Delphi and the cloud machines. And then this is one more of the platform that we have in Delphi, which is FD Plan, where the collaboration is you have already seen my previous slide that you can collaborate with different domains in Delphi. So this is one of their platform. It's called FD Plan. So you can maximize your field development planning potential in here. Yeah. So again, the idea of using Delphi is to have an evergreen model. So you can update the model and inform all of your colleagues or teams or your management of how a certain result looks like. And by doing this, you can have early decision-making process. So you can have your field operating more efficiently. This is just an example of how the reservoir engineers, physicists, geologists, they all collaborate under one platform, and they can look at the projects that each of the engineers or geologists are working at, and they can give input, for example, to the project. Okay, so this is my last slide. So the key takeaway here, guys, for students that, collaboration is key. Yeah, so in order to have an efficient project, you need to collaborate and by using digital technology in this case, Delphi, you can collaborate more, and you can have an evergreen project where you can give input, you can see results more in a short period of time, and it reduces uncertainty, and ultimately it will optimize and maximize oil production for operators. And that's all for me. Again, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat box. And I will give the floor back to the moderator, Mas Arasi, please.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Deva. Very interesting because I personally experienced how hard it is just to have a proper computer to run Petrel, Eclipse. It's by having Delphi, I think it's very good benefit. Thank you very much. So we will continue with our last speakers. We will have Mbak Cindy. She will talk about digitalization in production facilities. So we have covered quite wide subjects in this panel discussion. So let's welcome Mbak Cindy. The floor is yours.
Am I having internet connection? Hello. You hear me, Arashi and everyone?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for the moderator as well as the honorable speakers. It has been very insightful discussions and sharing, and also thank you for the committee to allow the opportunity for me to share a little bit of ExxonMobil Indonesia digital journey. So with that, let me share my screen and let me know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, the slide is okay.
All right, so let me hide this chat button over here. Okay, so Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. So again, my name is Cindy Haironisa. I'm a facilities engineer from ExxonMobil Indonesia, and I have also been assigned with the digital enablement lead for the organization here in Indonesia. So first of all, the guy in the picture is not me, just to clarify. So next, before we go, hold on. Do you see any hide video panel? Okay. So are you still seeing my presentation? Just want to make sure.
Yes, Ms. Cindy, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so before I share about the digital journey, I would like to share a glimpse of the ExxonMobil presence in Indonesia. So our history actually started back in 1898, where we have the marketing office open. And then it's actually in 1912 that we initiated the exploration activities. And in 1971, we have the major discovery of Arun Field in Aceh province. And in 1978 is where we have our first LNG export to Japan through a PT Arun LNG plant. And 2001, we have the discovery of Banyu Urip field in East Java province. 2008, the first oil from Banyu Urip early production facilities. And 2015, ExxonMobil assigned our interest in Arun field to Pertamina, and we also have the startup of the Banyu Urip full field facilities. And in 2019, in just 4 years after we started up, the ExxonMobil Banyu Urip field is producing over 220,000 barrels per day. So it's exceeding our plan of development of 165,000 barrels per day. So we are currently supplying more than 25% of the Indonesia's crude oil production, which also makes us the #1 oil producer in the country. And also we had the startup of our remote well pad Kedungkuris. So 2019 was a big year for us. And then 2020, as you all know, we are having this COVID-19 pandemic. But then the reality is we can increase the production to 228,000 barrels per day, where majority of the workers or the task force of ExxonMobil are working from home. Alhamdulillah. So how does it relate from a digital perspective? Well, it intertwines a lot. So if you look at the over 120 years of ExxonMobil history in Indonesia, is actually separated into 3 regimes of industrial revolution, where we have the second, the third, and the last one, or what we call as Industry 4.0, where we have more rapid integration between the cyber and physical system. And building that into mind, since I have been working with the company from before 2015, I have had the privilege of working in our somewhat older plant in Arun field, and I also have the luxury of working in our new plant here in Banyu Urip. And so I can tell the difference pretty significantly between what the Industry 3.0 and the Industry 4.0, how they affect on the digitalization, how the digital technology is embedded early in the design of our facilities. And that's actually part of the reason of the success story of us debottlenecking the production, the facilities from 165,000 barrels a day to 220,000 barrels per day safely in compliance with the laws and regulations, because the engineers, the production team, and the whole organization, we have the access to the data at our fingertip, which is something that we did not have back then in our older plant. And the testimony of how we are utilizing the digital technology is strengthened further when in this year we have the COVID-19 pandemic and we need to work from home, and yet we can still manage to increase our production. And so I would like to share a little bit about the digital terminology, because I think a majority of the participants here are students, but maybe it's also good for professionals to ensure that we are kind of on the same page for the terminologies. So digital, it's pretty clear, is the use of the binary code 0 and 1 to represent physical items or activities. And then digitization is the conversion of analog or physical information to a digital format. So imagine a room, a big room full of books like our library, and then digitization, meaning that we are converting those library of books or physical books into a digital searchable format. So I think a classic example for digitization in an oil and gas plant is the conversion of the operator logbook into a tablet or a handheld or any usable electronic devices. And then when we say digitalization, it's not just converting the analog to a digital format, but it's also improving the business process with the technologies. So one example would be like using the data analytics for predictive maintenance. And the last one is digital transformation. So digital transformation means that the organization want to build a culture or a systematic and coordinated digitalization efforts across the organization, and it's going to be required to be deployed through the data, people, processes, technologies, and metrics, and it has to change the way the business works. So one example would be like kind of moving to a single platform for the upstream, subsurface, surface, commercial modeling, and data. So the ExxonMobil digital journey, or I can say this also a data journey, right? We have this unseen ladders of how we progress through processing our data, starting from the human entry, like the operator around, putting it on a notebooks, trying to take measurements from the local gauges, from the equipment, to the sensors input. So where the data are being collected through the sensors, and it's forwarded not only locally at the sensors, but it's forwarded to the control room, central control room at the heart of the facility. So I think what we have up until the industry 3.0 is where we have this local surveillance. And then moving on is where we don't seal the data just within our plant. So we don't have to be inside the control room, do the hassle of going to need to take some rough travel, going to the site, but we can actually access the data remotely anywhere in the world. So that means the way I say it is like having the data at your fingertip, right? But then having the data readily accessible for you doesn't mean that you put it into a good use, right? So we need to process those data and do some science works on it, as Pa Adrian highlighted, that we need to do analytics to process the data and turn it into meaningful information. And meaningful information, part of it is also to predict the future a little bit better, so we can have more coordinated and pre-plan on our scheduled shutdown, etc., to minimize the downtime and yield more production. And the current step of our journey is where we are working towards what we call the digital twin, the prototype of digital twin of our plant in Banyu, Europe. So it means like a full-scale representation of your plant inside the model. So looking at this journey is actually being like divided into the past data, the present data, and the future condition. So I think I already give you quite a strong case there for the remote surveillance, where we have increased our production by working from home mostly. And the other part of it, the three part of it, I'm going to share a little bit of the case study inside our plan, and hopefully it can benefit you also, and maybe you can implement it inside your plan, or you can also try this when you graduate if you're a student, right? Okay. So the first case study is on the analytics case for the chemical inventories. So every plant in the world, I think, not just the oil and gas plant, we have inventories, right? We have chemical inventories, we have LPG, we have fuel, we have lubricants, we have the utilities and the logistics required in order for us to continue operate the plant. And then typically the inventories are stored inside a cylindrical tank or a block or a spherical kind of tank. Basically, it's a predictable kind of volume tank inventory, right? And from there, we have the level reading inside the tank where we are utilizing to record our daily consumption of the inventory. So we record at a certain time, like for example, at 00 or at 1 a.m., whatever, then we are going to record what's the opening and the closing inventory of that day. And then from that, we basically just took the delta of it and we take the consumption volume. So that means if we're trying to control our OPEX better, because inventories, at least for us, is a big chunk of operating expense, is a big chunk of OPEX. And so for we start with particular inventories in our facilities that are really cost consuming, like it's high cost utilities, high turnover, and we try to put analytics into it. And so this is what a typical reading from that level tank inventory from our side. What it typically looks like you see at the x-axis, we have the time, and this is basically the meter cube. The level has been converted to meter cube. And then this is the slope or the graph that shows. So every time it goes down, it means we are consuming the chemical or the inventory. And every time the slope goes up, we are doing a top up. And then it goes down again, so that means we are consuming the chemical. So maybe I'll give a 30-second quiz just to make sure participants are still awake, because it's pretty late already, at least in the morning. So, oh, sorry, I clicked it. So what would be the mathematical formula that is required to predict what is the consumption or calculate what is the consumption rate of the chemical just by looking at this level inventory, and you can write down your answer in the chat. And what would be the formula required to calculate the top up of the inventory, because both data are important for us, right? You need the consumption rate so that you can ensure you are sustaining or even reducing your consumption. Because again, every inventories that we spend, they are OPEX. And then the top up is important because you want to verify that your suppliers are providing you the amount of inventory that they claim to. So anybody wants to answer? Okay, I have some private answer. Okay, good. But actually, if you're a student and you put it on public, then maybe your calculus lecturer can look at it and give you an extra credit. But anyway, okay. Yeah, you are absolutely right. So the slope is the consumption rate, and then the top up volume is the area under the curve. So, and it's actually adjusted. Why I say adjusted? Because during the top up, we are also consuming, right? So you need to consider the consumption as well in the period of top up. But bottom line, the message is to do a digitalization, you don't have to use all the fancy tools. It doesn't have to be complicated or rocket science. It's actually first grade calculus, right? We can achieve what Pak Pande said earlier as a quick wins, right? Because that means we are having a better control of our consumption rate, and we have a better control also about what is claimed to be top up. And for us, it really can save us hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars a year. And then I'm giving you the next case study of the prediction case. So the prediction from machinery. So every plant needs a machinery to work, right? We need the compressor, we need the pump, we need the gas turbine generator to deliver the fluid from one point to another, and also to generate electricity inside our plant. And for the machinery, the data sources are many. Like we have vibration analysis, we have performance analysis, oil and debris, chemical monitoring, electrical monitoring, and whatnot. And every engine, we can have tens or 10,000s or parameters, and multiplied by many engines, it can grow to 100,000s. And it's just not doable by the some machinery engineers or folks, technicians inside our facilities to monitor all of this data. So that's why we are utilizing prediction tool, analytics tool to help us better understand the behavior of our turbo machinery. So for example, on the top left here is the compressor seal gas filter replacement forecast. So the one in the solid lines here are the actual historical differential pressure across the filter. And as you can see here on the dashed line is the prediction. And here on the vertical lines are the threshold on where we are going to need to replace our filters. And as you can see, this is May 25th. This is July 13th. So it gives us time to prepare our maintenance, and then probably like combining some scheduled maintenance activities on the compressor so that we minimize like the scheduled downtime or the flaring to our facilities by predicting the maintenance better. And then on the bottom side, we have the gas turbine generators overhaul based on the run hour forecast. So we have like 6 gas turbine generators. Each of them I mentioned to you, tens of thousands of parameters. And then they also have individual run hour, which cannot really be determined by a single parameter. There's no such parameter GTG run hour. You need to do some data processing to get that. And then we have the prediction, the curve fitting based on the historical data to predict when are we going to reach that 40,000 run hour or 45,000 run hour, which is our time between time to overhaul the equipment. And the last case that I would like to share is about the digital twin. So the digital twin is like a representation of an actual or a physical asset, or in our case, our plant, into the digital model. So lots of vendors or service providers are coming up with digital twin solution, but we have done some internal researches, and we think these three are the main components of a software or a system to be called a digital twin. So first off, it has to have the logic, the secret sauce of the digital twin. It has to have the simulation, be it on the thermodynamics or equation of state-based, or it also have or been equipped with artificial intelligence or machine learning or deep learning for that matter. But basically, it has to have a logic inside it or a computing power. And then there's another part of the visualization, be it in the augmented or virtual reality or in the 3D model or 2D model. We need to have a kind of visualization. And then the last part is the data aggregator, where we are gathering data from multiple sources. And at the bottom, of course, we need to have the data foundation. So here in Banyu Urip, we can say, Alhamdulillah, we became the first ExxonMobil upstream that adapt this downstream kind of digital twin. So it's a combination of the simulation and data aggregator. Again, we have heard from the speakers that oil and gas industry are behind, but maybe if we are to divide the oil and gas industry into two parts, like the upstream and the downstream part, then the upstream part is actually a little bit far behind compared to the downstream. And what we are trying to do here in ExxonMobil Indonesia is we are adapting the prototype of digital twin from our downstream's counterpart, so that it allow us for a MIMO plant constraint model and optimization recommendation. So in the Pak Ardian Nengkoda slide, I think this would be on the top right, the one where he called a prescriptive plan or optimization, because that means it allows us to understand what our plan current situation is and how it can be improved further, considering the multiple input and multiple output constraint that we have. Because when we think about the control system in the upstream plant, we typically only have the basic process control, like the DCS, and it only has the CISO, or the single output, single input, single output type. So for example, if we are trying to optimize this part of the plan by looking at another part of the plan, we cannot really literally do that easily. But then, like, when we have this tool to allow us mapping the constraints of our plan in a MIMO manner, then we hope that we can continuously use this tool to optimize and meet the challenges set forth for our operation, and continue to improve the way we do the business in Indonesia. So final words. Again, just to reiterate the previous presenters and what we are having today, that the upstream oil and gas industry continue to operate on a tighter margin and constraints each and every day. And a fit-for-purpose digital enablement is a key to the industry's success. But again, it takes the whole organization plus external benchmarking to determine what the fit for purpose is, where our sweet spot is. So I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for observing, and I return the floor to the moderator. Thank you, Pak Arasi.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mbak Cindy. So very interesting slide and presentation from Mbak Cindy. So now we have listened to all the speakers' presentation. And when I saw the participants during our presentation, I'm really impressed that we can still maintain more than 300 participants during the panel discussion and presentation. Thank you for all audience, it's very great. So now we are in the Q&A session. We already have a lot of questions coming in for the speakers. So I will start with the very first question. It will be quite general. Initially intend to Pak Pande, and I think all speakers can also speak up to give their comments. So we have question from Mbak Grabiela. She asked that how to face the challenge in digitalization in oil and gas industry. I think in slide from Pak Pande and Pak Ardian, the challenge has been mentioned as well. Maybe we can focus on one of this challenge, which is I think quite significant or important, related with the senior management commitment. If we see in the past few years, even like the epoxy in last year is about digitalization, and we have a lot of webinar, seminar, talk show about digitalization in oil and gas. And as you have mentioned all, that in the upstream, at least, we are quite lag behind. So how do we accelerate or boost so that the commitment from the senior management can be helpful to accelerate digitalization in oil and gas industry? We can start with Pak Pande.
Well, so the commitment, yes, it's obviously, it's very important to have the management or the shareholder commitments, but it goes to everyone's, right? Everybody need to be committed to utilizing digital tools, right? Because it's not an options anymore. Digitalization is fact of life. And oil and gas industry has been adopting this technology at its own pace, but nowadays, I think the time has come for the oil and gas industry to, pick up the pace and speed it up a little bit. So from every stakeholder, the management, the employee, to create a cultures, as well as to identify the low-hanging fruit, like I mentioned earlier. So in my opinions, that's how we need to face these challenges. And of course, there is a bigger challenge, which is the regulations. And I would like to bring this point to the floor, that different countries have different level of regulations for confidentiality of information. But there are more and more countries like the Norway, many countries in Europe, they started to have this open source or open platform. So that comes from the mindsets, right? So the new generations will need to have this type of mindset to share the knowledge. And that way we can accelerate these digitalizations for the benefit of all. I guess that's my opinions.
Okay, so a mindset shift, if I can understand.
Yeah.
And how about Pak Ardian Nengkoda? What do you think about how to improve the commitment from the management so that we can accelerate digitalization in the oil and gas industry?
Yeah, thank you so much, Arasi. I do agree, and then I support my colleague Mas Pande explanations about what kind of tips, right? So the way I see it should come from the top down, right? So it should come from the higher level first. So we are talking about, for example, KPI, key performance indicator, like operational excellence, no accident, no environmental damage, no harm to the people. So the KPI need to be clear. So how to sell the benefit of the digitalizations? Once is to have a clear KPI. Then, as mentioned by Mas Pande before, that was absolutely correct, where we need to have a culture. And then the way I see that, because of the lack, the gaps between the oil and gas industry in terms of the applications of the digitalization ICT, where we quite behind, there is a lack of skill, there's a lack of resources. So within the culture, when we develop the culture, the collaborations, we need to have also in the same time a good set of skills. And then of course I do agree also where the the government regulation need to support that environment. So bear in mind that within this oil and gas business, we are not talking about the E&P operating company only. We have a services company, right? We also have a lot of government stakeholder. We need to collaborate even with the university, with other stakeholder, with other think tank research, and so on and so on. So one of the good example is about this digitalization process is how, for example, the Petronas in Malaysia pushing their operating company within the region to apply it as mandatory. So the government has a rules to drive the process, to drive the implementation. So I think I do agree that this is we can say as a triple helix driving. First, it should come from the top, as a management level, should encourage a clear benefit of these digitalizations. Number two is to build in the same time collaboration culture with other stakeholders, with the service company, right, with the government, with the university in terms of the research. Number three, we need to prepare, in terms of the readiness, the skill set, and so on and so on. So I do believe that the future will be there, because at the moment, as we speak, of course, for about 4 months, 6 months now, the oil price is really low. It's really drive for everyone, for all of the stakeholder to think out of the box. So that was the things where I do believe it will trigger more and more the representativeness and also the benefit, the impact from the digitalization. That's my best answer. Thank you.
Okay, so the top management should have should put a KPI, so it will be clear how long our target or how high. So if you go to Mas Agung, correlate with what Pak Ardian said about Petronas, how do you see it in Petronas? Does Petronas has a high commitment due to regulation from the government in Malaysia, or how do you see it?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Arashi. I think it's clear, yeah. Commitment is made from top down, yeah. So we see that from Petronas side, even they are separated, yeah. They have the MPM and then they have Petronas, but in essential, in Malaysia, they're well governed. So you can see from top down, they have what they call an executive level digital transformation lead. So that shows you what leadership do, yeah. They actually commit to it, and then they make sure that the implementations are well covered in those gated process, yeah. Like what Ardian mentioned, it's being challenged by the government that, come on, what is your digital transformation, and then what you can bring to make us speed up the process, yeah. I just want to highlight, you have what you call a joint industry project, yeah, JIP. I think specifically in drilling, I think it's been started back in early 2010s, yeah. Specifically in drilling systems and automation, we have what we call a DSA roadmap. It started back in 2016 by big companies, yeah, by Shell, by Saudi Aramco even. Petronas is not there yet, but they are started by the big majors that actually make the commitment first, and they actually put money. The joint industry project is not something that is free. Yeah? Some company put 100K upfront, but in installments. Some company put less than that. Yeah. So it's a commitment of actually making the capital expenses, as well as the leading of the process. Yeah. So now you can check out their website, which is an open source, like what Pak Pande mentioned earlier, the DSA.org. They have already a lot things that has been done. In fact, the roadmap has been started last year at 2019. I was also contributing to some of it, and it's mapped out to the next 10 years of what we're going to do. In fact, I encourage you, young engineers or engineers to be, you'll become the future leaders, participate in all of that. I even see that some of the program next, I think it was in Sunday on 13th of September, you will have a Python course for the whole participant, which is very good. I applaud that, and that has to come more to be able to catch up to our lagging at the moment. What Cindy mentioned also, that the upstream is very lagging. I can concur that. That is correctly said. We should catch up with our downstream friends, yeah, even internally and also externally to the other three parties from what Pak Ardian mentioned in the helical tripartite. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. Thank you, Pak Arish,
Okay,
and everybody.
thank you, Pak Agung. So if we go to Mbak Deva, from the perspective of a service company, how do you see Schlumberger, especially as a service who for sure you will provide a lot of high-tech technology like Delphi that you have just
Yeah.
mentioned before. How do you encourage the oil company to accelerate, to have a good
Yeah.
or certain commitment to the development of the technology? How do you see it?
Yeah, I can say that, because we are lagging, we are actually kind of forced to adopt the digital technology, and that's what the surface companies are doing. That's what Schlumberger is doing. Is we're developing this digital technology to be offered to the operators. I'd say that I agree with all of the opinions before, that the commitment is very important. That the key point is to have a culture alteration to move to digital technology. So it must come from the management of the operators. But as service company, we provide our operators, our clients and customers with the top-notch digital technology. And as you can see before in my presentation regarding Delphi, but one point that I would like to give out to the students or young engineers that are going to the industry later is that you have to develop your skill set. That's really important. Even me as a millennial, I always learn new stuff from the SPE platform, from other from EATME, for example. I always find it very exciting to learn new stuff. And one suggestion that I think that's really important that the students need to have is that there should be a curriculum difference, nowadays, because in the petroleum engineering department, I can say for ITB, for example, because I graduated from ITB, I know for sure that there's no curriculum difference between from where I studied there until now. So there's no subjects on Python. There's no subject on scripting. There's no subject on all that digital technology stuff that are going to be very useful when you graduate, when you enter the industry. So I think the suggestion would be that, develop your skill set, and if possible, you could suggest to the department to have a dedicated subject to learn more and how you could apply those scripting skills, those Python skills, how to apply them in the industry. That's my point, Mas Arasi. Thank you.
Okay, very interesting suggestion. Before there will be, I have a question about that, but we will continue with the commitment first topic. So if you go to Mbak Cindy, previously you said that if we compare between upstream and downstream, that actually in downstream it is more advanced compared to upstream in Exxon especially. So how do you see it? Because even at the same the same company with at the top of a management is actually the same who owns the group, but we can still have such a gap between upstream and downstream in one company. How do you see it in the perspective from engineer in Exxon?
Okay. Thank you, Mas Arasi, for the question. I think it's an interesting one. So the difference between upstream and downstream, why it happens, right? And like, why are we still lagging behind our downstream fellows? And I think the reason for that is, by nature, the downstream industry, they are working on a margin. So they purchase the feedstock from somewhere else, and then they process it, and then they sell it to the customer. So first off, they don't have the feed from the feed to their plant are not technically free. I know, like, the upstream, it is not free, obviously. Like, we have all the extensive drilling and exploration, but basically we're not purchasing our feed on a continuous basis, right? We have an investment, a work project to get our feed, but after that, we're done. So I think by nature, that's why the downstream plant will need to optimize more and will be driven to scrutinize more on the inventories consumption, on the energy consumption, and everything that they are producing. They need to they're pushed to be very efficient and effective. And that is why in the very beginning, I think they have this higher initial velocity, I would say, compared to the upstream folks when it comes to the technology advancement. But then the nuance of the oil and gas industry in upstream, we also need to realize that we are also operating on a tighter and a more stricter margin and restriction each and every day, like I mentioned in my final slide. Um, and so in ExxonMobil, I would say the focus for the digital enablement is pretty high. So we have a centralized group in Houston that do exactly that. So the upstream integrated solution, they are having a dedicated digital enablement team that help the business units across the globe to first and foremost have a roadmap about what we are going to do in our production unit from today until the end of the PSC life. Because like when we think about digitalization, sometimes we come to think about ad hoc or what we think is necessary for the current business demand. We don't really think of long-term, like until the end of the PSC life. So then having this engagement from the central team help us to see through the barriers that we have today, and we look at until the end of the PSC life, what would be the roadmap? And this roadmap, given developed by each units with the support from the central team, it helped us to see through the dark days, I would say. Like, even though we have these phases of oil price goes up and down, it happens also in the past, right? And then having this roadmap is meaning that we have a rope in the middle of forest that we can stick up to. So every time that there's a roadblock because of budget restriction, etc., yes, we can stop there for a moment, but we will go there again. I mean, like we will continuously stay on the track to ensure that we do digitalization not for the sake of being digital, but to ensure that we have the maximum value that we can possibly get out of our asset and our business. Thank you.
Okay, roadmap, very interesting. Yes, I see. Okay, so now correlate to what Pak Ardian and also Mbak Deva briefly said about skill set is very interesting because it seems that currently our industry is lacking of talents who really are expert in the, I would say, in digitalization. What do you think about this? Should we hire more IT engineer instead of process engineer, petroleum engineer, or should we hire IT engineer, data scientist? What do you think about this? I would go to first with Pak Ardian related to this question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arasi. Very good questions about the skill sets, right? I do believe you have heard before from the SPE president, Mr. Tom, and then the current president, Ms. Noonan, where, you know, to have the new skills cap for the particular petroleum engineering subject is quite very important, because petroleum engineering is really as a core focus from the reservoir to the wells, to the production facilities, operations, equipment, even though including the safety, health, and environmental as a subject. So it's quite very focused. However, what we can see, the expectations from the ICT, from digitalization, from the IR 4.0 is something new. It's not in the area of the core anymore. So the way I see that, you know, it's very important for the subject matter expert, for our, you know, oil and gas industry practices within the core, to have a new skill sets, which is we can learn for any Python as a data science, or for the for example data analytics or big data, which is will get a benefit for our operation, for our project, and so on and so on. So the key issue will be, we cannot be proud anymore with whatever we already have, but we need to expand. Not just because of the low oil price, but the expectation on the innovations are driven by the demand. by the customer, by the people, by the stakeholder. So we are really aware about the expectation on, doing our business as lean as possible, as low as economic as possible, but in the same time respecting the environment, respecting the climate, respecting the people, perceptions, and so on and so on. So this should be in our new DNA right now, where we are not in the old days anymore. So we need to be active, we need to be innovative enough to meet the new demand. The new demand means that, doing a business as lean as possible, as effective, as innovative as possible. And bear in mind, in the end of the day, when we talk about the oil and gas business, we are always talk about the price, about the economic, about the profit, right? But not enough anymore. We need to have the new paradigm. We need to have a new thinking where doing an oil and gas business is to sustain and to support the long term of our life. So I do agree that, speaking about the new skill set is very important. And then we need to develop more and more open sources, because open sources is like the new way of living. That was the expectation from the people, where by the behalf of this competition, the openness, the collaborations, I think Pandey mentioned many times about we need to be transparent, we need to collaborate, we need to integrate. I think that was the future of our oil and gas. Thank you.
Okay, so I could summarize. So you would choose to training the current people in oil and gas industry, so that it will have like a more set, like the P set, the P skill, where we have the PE knowledge, and also the how is that, the programming language knowledge.
Correct.
But it will take quite some time because it's new. We have to train people, we have to invest, we have to pay. So I will go to Pak Panda. How do you think about this? Because we have like you said, we have to invest the infrastructure. Now we have to invest to the people so they have the skills, the proper skill set. What do you think about this? Because it will take, maybe because this is one of the challenge that why the digitalization in oil and gas industry is quite slow regarding to the development of the people.
So I guess the acquisitions of technology, especially the digital technology, it's getting cheaper and cheaper, right? The infrastructure that we refer to, for instance, the computer hardware or the robotic hardware, they are used by many other industries. And therefore, the cost of that technology is dropping on daily basis. Now, the key factors to these equations is the workforce, is the people. Now, my opinions, and this is also my hope to younger professionals, is to keep ourselves relevant. And what I mean by that is coding, for instance. We mentioned about Python codings, we mentioned about automations, we mentioned about data analytics. So those are available. Well, yes, ideally the corporate will provide you tools to learn, but that is a very old way. These days, in a different industry, and it's not too far apart from our industry, right? Let's say automotive industry, the mechatronic, the mechanicals, electronics, or peoples, they've been evolved from just mechanics to mechanic plus electronics. And now they also know how to program. So for us as oil and gas professionals, we cannot just stay as, let's say, petroleum engineers or reservoir engineers or anything, but we need to stay relevant. So of course, if we're going to hire someone, the best reservoir engineer compared to a reservoir engineer plus some programming skill, these days the second option is more attractive.
Okay.
So stay relevant and always enrich yourself. There are so many tools. You don't have to wait for the corporate to teach you or send you somewhere to learn how to program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Panda. So we will go to Mbak Deva regarding about preparing for the young future generation, especially for students, since most of our audience is student here, more than 200, I believe. You are before you mentioned about that we should learn more Python, more of programming language. If we correlate with what Pak Ardiana has already present before, there is data science, there is data analyst, there is big data. Digitalization actually cover of quite wide area. So how do you suggest for students
Yeah.
how they should select which one they should learn for the this digitalization for the future, because it's quite wide, and then even they don't know yet which major they will go. What I mean, if we are PE, we have drilling, we have reservoir engineer, we have production engineer, even some geothermal. We don't know where they will go to after graduation, and how do you suggest that they should they should prepare themselves for the skill set of the future?
Okay, thank you, Mas Arsi, for the question. It's very interesting. So, based on what Pak Ardian said in the slide regarding the three data analytics, data science, and big data. So, my recommendation is, if possible, do all of them. But one of the main concerns, I think now, because we have, with our industry is it's quite old, quite mature. We have a lot of data. So what's important nowadays is the ability to read data, to analyze data. So I guess I would like to emphasize that the skills to analyze, to read data is very important, and therefore would be very beneficial for the students if they could learn that. I think there's also the course in Coursera or in Udemy that the students could benefits from. So I suggest that they took the class and they use that skills to analyze and make a conclusion or make an analysis of what the data is trying to say. Because in the oil and gas industry we have a lot of data, production data on a daily basis, monthly basis. There's something that we can tell, but by just looking at the data, you can see the trends, you can predict the future, for example. So I think, I'd suggest to have that skills, in nowadays world. Thank you, Mas Agus.
Okay, so all participants should participate in the workshop at the end of this week, which is part of the Petroweek event series, right? So
Yes,
okay, so I want to go to Pak Agung, related to culture and skill set. Can you share your knowledge about what Petronas do to face this digitalization in your company? Is there any like big cultural change, like what Pak Pande said in the beginning about shifting about of the mindset in Petronas? It will be interesting to know.
Okay, thanks, Mas Arashi. So yeah, as I said earlier, it has to go from top down. So actually, earlier, Petronas have already assigned an agent of change, we call it. So he's she is the lead, how do you say, a lead digital transformation enabler. In fact, she's high up. She's one of the executive levels. Well, for you who doesn't know what executive level means, it's actually someone who is high up top that actually can make changes from top to bottom. They're not necessarily from operation level, but they're seeing things from a bird's eye view. So what we have done specifically to drilling team here in Indonesia, In fact, we hired a group of data scientists because we don't have that skill set inside, right? Even though our group, my group is full of engineers. We got 30 people, probably less than 10, 7 or 8 of them are drilling engineers, but we don't have that skill set of data science and data analytics. We know that. We know that as a lagging in our team. So we hired a group of data scientists as an outsource, and we asked them to provide us with the tool that is required to do that changes. And in fact, somebody higher up in KL has to approve that cost because that's not cheap. Yeah, they charge by the hours. Yeah, the data scientists. So that's one of the application that we've started in Petronas, especially in Indonesia. And I know for a fact that in KL and other international assets, that is currently being done as well. Even some of them, we have started making them as one of our own, meaning Petronas employee, not only outsourcing. But I offer you my view, my personal view in this instance. Yeah, for you out there, not necessarily engineers and soon to be graduates. For me myself, like what Madefa mentioned, I take courses in myself, yeah, because I need to learn the lingos. I need to learn the lingos and the jargons of these millennials, yeah, because the engineers that's reporting to me is almost all are millennials. So the way I see it is like this. When I started out as becoming a young engineer, I see that the necessity of learning English as a skill is a very high skill that you have to adopt when you're joining the industry, oil and gas industry. At my time, that was early 2000s. So now I see the language of coding, of scripting, of data science as a language. It's a language for you to talk to your machine, to your programming. So you have to learn that as a language skill. Consider it as a language skills like English that you have to learn. So you quoting and echoing what Pa Ardian and Dr. Ardian and Pak Pande mentioned, you don't wait until your company teach you that, give you a course, send you to a course. Hey, courses in Coursera and Udemy, some are very cheap, even free. So you have to enrich yourself and learn it as a language. Learn it as a third or fourth language. If you already master English, then learn the language of computer, of programming as your own skill set. Then, of course, you will get noticed by recruiters, by human resource department. I think that's the key message, Mas Arashi and others.
Yes. Okay. So it's a challenge for all of us, not only for future engineers, but also the old engineers, I could say, to familiarize ourselves with the digitalization. Okay. Now I would go to Mbak Cindy. It is still related to the skill set. There is one question about can we, as a geoscientist or engineers, still survive in outside oil and gas industry by having the current skill set, or after adding the programming language and so on? Have you ever encountered this kind of case during your career in oil and gas industry?
Okay, I actually prefer to answer the previous question, Mas Arasi, if possible. But anyway, yeah. So again, this digitalization is not happening in not just our industry, right? It's across the board, right? It's everything is going to be digitalized now. So learning some programming skills are definitely helpful for every industry that we want to take on. But again, if I may add to the comments about the skill set, the reason why I say that programming alone won't be suffice, because I think there are actually three areas that we need to acquire for us to survive, like for the young engineers, the future leaders to enter the industry, for them to survive, and for us that are already in the industry, we can still thrive. And those three areas, the first one is still, I would say, the discipline or the domain knowledge. So it is inseparable from everything we do. I mean, like we can get a bunch of bad data, right? And then we can tell that it is bad because of our domain or discipline knowledge. It just doesn't make sense, things like that. But if we are only learning on how to predict the data, say how to use the regression or the principal component analysis to understand how to predict the data, we're going to be wrong on our prediction because we don't understand that basically the data is not correct. It needs cleansing first. So I think the discipline or the domain knowledge is still the primary one. So be it a petroleum engineer or a process engineer, electronics, electrical machinery, any engineering as the core discipline, it is still beneficial. Hold on to it. And then the second one is the programming knowledge, as others have highlighted, right? And the last one is actually math. So math and statistics, to be exact, is actually very pivotal in the success of doing the data science as highlighted by Dr. Ardian there. It's very important for us to master calculus and statistic and probability. So don't sleep in the class. To the students that are still suffering there, I mean, like, you hang in there. I mean, it's really is useful, and because it frequently in the oil and gas industry, the data are not like stock market. I mean, like if you are trying to predict stock market, good luck. But if you are trying to predict, say, what's the temperature of the outlet of a cooler at any given time of a day, it's much more predictable. What is the consumption rate of your inventories? It's much more linear, right? The data is much more predictable and clean in the oil and gas industry because it primarily comes from nature. I think other than the skill set mentioned there, the organization also needs to provide the tools required. And what are these tools? These are actually one of the enabler, I would say. And this is basically to segregate the system, the IT system, into two parts. So the front end and the back end. So the back end, which are more server-based, network-based, cybersecurity assurance, etc., it has to be taken care of by the IT personnel. We cannot replace them. We're not here to wipe out the IT department. No. But the front end part, the tool needs to be available for all the user. It needs to be available for the engineers, for the technician, the operators, and anybody who is just the beauty of data science and get the more for the business through data analytics by using this front end programming language. So I think that's the last part of my comment. Mas Arasi, thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Cindy. Oh, it's very interesting. I just remember with the security issue now, since we have also a question about security issue. For example, I read the news that in one platform of one company in the North Sea in Europe, they have a lot of cyber attack to their platform, to their system. I would like to ask Pak Panda, how do you see this cyber risk issue, the cyber attack that since we are developing the digitalization in the oil and gas industry, of course, the issue of cyber attack will also increase. How do we prepare for this?
Well, you know, this is also as a consequence of oil and gas industry entering into the digitalizations at the later stage, right? So we are not at the front row, we are behind. So that all these issues of cyber attack, the security, you know, privacy and all that, there are more other industry that addressing this. And that, yeah, and our industry is actually benefited from it, right? Let's say the e-commerce, they are battling with the cyber attack threat on, I mean, constantly, not even daily basis, every second they are battling with it. If we compare our exposure to their exposure, oil and gas is much smaller. They are handling a lot of data, people data, you know, and yes, we do have some sensitive data. Yes, we do have some, dangerous materials that we handle, but I don't think that is our main concerns at this point, right? Yes, we need to be cautious about IT security and data securities and all that, but we need to encourage our industry to use more of the digital technology for the benefit of our industry.
Okay, excellent. So I will go to Pak Ardian Engkoda. As Aramco is one of a very big national oil company, how do you see the cyber attack in Aramco? Is it
Oh yeah,
quite often,
thank you so
or
much.
like what Pak Pandit said?
Yeah, I think it's very valid questions. It's quite very interesting because if you take a look on the biggest oil producer on earth, we produce the oil or gas which is impacting to the needs of the energy, right? Therefore, it's quite very favorite, very appeal for anyone, try to disturb, try to attack, and so on. So energy business is a quite important, high level, and has a lot of impact to all country. So the biggest producer on earth relies about that. So if you take a look to the history with from my slide before, the history of the data science since 200 years ago. So basically the hacker, the cyber attack start to be popular around year 2000. So of course, oil and gas industry at that time still not in the age of the digitalization. Back to 2010, we started quite very massive, but still lag behind. But again, the issue is how we can protect ourselves, because whenever we start about the digitalization means that we are connecting one dot to the other dot and the bigger dots. So it's transparent, it's open, as web-based, right? Where of course the virus, the attack, the cyber attack is become really favorable because they have some hidden agenda on it. So to me, it's very important where in between, inside of the data science as a mother of the big data, the analytics part of it, we also, includes actually the cyber, protections, protecting, this data, because it can be misused or misled for other party. So we realize about that. Therefore, what I can say that cybersecurity is a part of the data science. So we are really aware about that, and then we are really open to learn more from other industry, and then we would like to share a lot of best practices how we can contain that this data, either the impact are minimized as much as possible. So I do agree that cybersecurity, protecting the data, protecting the impact is a part of the data science. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ardian. And we have another interesting question from one of the participants. We have a question from Aryadi Kusuma. So he asked, what is the advantage and disadvantages of digitalization? We have talked a lot during the past 2 hours about what is the benefits of having digitalization in oil and gas. Now, let's talk about the disadvantages. How do we have any disadvantages in digitalization? So I will go with Pak Agung. What do you see about these disadvantages? Have you ever seen any disadvantages that you see in the past or maybe in the future?
Yeah,
for oil and gas.
Sharasi. Yeah, I think as into any applications of technology, there are always disadvantages. The way I see it is not much, and it's manageable. But for us drillers, the one that is frontliner in drilling industry, we are usually more physical based. So we're kind of the gray-haired people in the oil and gas industry. We don't like seeing technology, because this is a quote I get from one of the drilling supervisors I have on the rig at the moment. It will just replace their job, because as I said in my last slide, one of the last slide is that less and less people is going to be there, But as probably all of you seen also in the gerbang tol otomatis, in Jasa Marga. That's not a good job, yeah, to be out there and then having all of the pollution when you're sitting in that toll booth. Yeah, now they have more automation in terms of gerbang tol otomatis GTO. You just tap in your card. So in the beginning, people will say that takes away my job. It's not good because I no longer have a job. But actually, you have become more efficient. You have become more effective, and then in the end, you will have more things to do. Yeah, be it maybe your economy might be a little bit less in the beginning, but then you need to learn what the future holds for you. Because if you're currently in the 4.0 industry, then you need to know all the jargons. Yeah. So as I said, it's more of an invisible disadvantages. You perceive it as a disadvantages, but I think most of those can be turned into advantages. Yeah, in my opinion. So I don't see any roadblocks to this. I mean, this should be full blown implemented. Yeah, and don't become a change. You know, the one that is like a devil's advocate. But you need to be the change enabler. You need to take it all in, and you need to ensure that it's implemented correctly. And again, it has to be top down, has to be all facets of the oil and gas industry, and you should just absorb it in, yeah, and not look at the microscopic level, but look at a bigger side. And in fact, the pandemic, yeah, the COVID pandemic is one of the biggest digital transformation change agent, yeah, because now, like for me in Petronas, I have so many stuff that I have to install in my mobile. Now I have this, I have that, I have to install all of those because now Petronas is changing the way they work. Now everybody can work from everywhere. It's no longer WFO, no longer work from office, no longer work from home, but work from everywhere. So you need tools to enable all of that. So I see looking at this in a perspective of advantage and disadvantage actually takes away the whole of transformation that we need to do. So we need to see the disadvantages being turned into advantages. Yeah, that's the way I see it, or challenges. Yeah, instead of saying disadvantages, you should see it as a challenges that you need to overcome and then build upon it to be your change enabler, to be your catalyst. Yeah, I think that's from my end.
How do you see it in the perspective of risk? Since like automation or machine learning, it is still learning from the past history, right? In the history, we have the successful experience, the failure experience. Since will digitalization still induce big risk, especially at the beginning of the integration from without digitalization and with digitalization. So, well, it exposed us with bigger risk instead in the beginning.
Okay, so Masharashi, that's a very good point. Yeah, when you implement technology, I think there are certain levels. Yeah, and of course you will see the failure in the beginning. Yeah, you will see that somehow your model is not matching, and this is where we have to be open. Sometimes the data scientists they don't have the domain capability or the knowledge that we have as a subject matter expert. So we need to be opening to them more. Like I have a very good session, yeah, with one of the data scientists. They actually come in to my office and ask, "Can I do a quick interview?" But this is a recorded interview with a video. Okay, he wants me to be candid. He wants me to be honest on what I think is his first model, and then that is a very good communication. I would say collaboration. So you need to open up more to be able to get people into your oil and gas industry. I think that is one of the you could say the challenges of why the upstream industry comparing to the downstream industry is that they are so boxed in. They are so not open, not transparent in having other people coming in and seeing what their business processes are in the upstream. So with that in mind, when you start opening, then you will have other people thinking from a different point of view, yeah, because maybe you have been looking at it on your own way from this last 10-20 years. To be able to be more efficient, you need other people from a different perspective looking at your industry or how you do it every day, and then start making changes. Yeah, I think that's the key. Yeah? Communications, openness, and then also transparency. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the key, Masarashi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agong. So if we go to Mbak Deva, what do you think about these advantages? Do you see it in your experience
Yeah.
doing with Schlumberger?
Thank you for the question, Mas Arasi. As mentioned by previous speakers, it's very true. With the digitalization, of course, there would be a risk for data security because we're putting our data up there in the internet, and then people could just hack in and then download our data and so on and so forth. But I think because we are lagging, because when we digitalized, other industries have actually started digitalizing before, we could actually learn from them. I think that even though we're lagging behind, it's somewhat like a blessing in disguise, because then we could learn from their mistakes, learn what they did and which workflow that they implemented in order to avoid having the security issues or maybe crime. So we can actually adopt their workflows and their ways to resolve those issues. But I totally agree. One of the biggest concerns is when Schlumberger introduced Delphi is data security, and therefore why we have to work with, and therefore that's why we have to work with other industries. So, for example, Microsoft and also Google, they provide security services. So there's a contract between the customer and Google or Microsoft, and make sure that their data is secure, and only the people listed from the company are the ones that could access those data. So I think collaboration is a key, so that you need to collaborate with other industry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Deva.
Thank you.
Since we have around 5 more minutes for our discussion, I think I will go with our last question. We have one question regarding competitors. If we talk about competitors for oil and gas, we have solar panels, we have wind turbine, we have hydrogen. So I would like to ask, and all of them is related to technology, because they are even more advanced, I think, for technology compared to us. So I would like to ask Mbak Cindy about this, especially you have your degree in electric, and all the stuff is related to electric. How do you see the digitalization will help us to compete with the competitors, especially the solar panel, which the cost of solar panel is decreasing very fast, and then the upcoming of hydrogen to replace oil as a fuel. Could it help us to compete with the upcoming challenge that is growing very fast now?
Yeah. So thank you, Mas Arasi. On that question about the renewable energy, right? I would say that it's not really competitors, because ExxonMobil, we also do have our renewable energy department in the group. And I would not say that it's a head-to-head competitors, because at the end of the day, as a human being, we need to survive, and energy is vital for our sustenance. And be it from the oil and gas or from renewables, they are all required for us to be still present on this earth. So I think that's my general view about it. And then the other thing about this digital thing is actually blurring the areas of what competitors are. So I like what Pak Pande mentioned about this era, where we need to survive better and harder. We need to start more collaboration, even with what we so-called competitors. So I would like to just share my personal experience on that one. So I have made the initiative of doing benchmarking to Medco Energy, as well as Chevron Pacific Indonesia, about specific topic that I think it really needs to be solved inside our plant. And I think they have been very helpful. Like they provide us the information and the insight that we require without crossing the boundaries, of course. But we get the message that we really need to share this knowledge and this expertise across the board. So we can even learn from who we used to call competitors. So I think that's my view, Mas Arasi.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Cindy. Maybe for last comment from Pak Pande, how do you think about this?
Well, thank you, Mas Arasi. I think I agree with Cindy. It's not really a competitors. I think we are still behind on utilizing the digital technology before even we need to worry about other source of energies. As we all know, the recovery factors of our hydrocarbons in average is less than 30%. And yet fossil fuels, if I remember the number correctly, are still supplying 80% of the source of energy for the world. So let's focus on how can we optimize utilizing the digital technology to get more benefit from oil and gas. I think that's my opinions on that. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Pak Pande. So since now it's almost 11:30 Jakarta time, I think that's it brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Thank you very much for the powerful message from all speakers, Pak Pande, Pak Ardian, Pak Agung, Mbak Deva, and Mbak Cindy. It is very insightful. It's been a fantastic conversation. Even I learned a lot news perspective from this discussion. It's really great to have you all here, and thank you again for the presentation and discussion. I believe all the participant also enjoyed today's discussion, and we look forward to welcome you again soon. And then thank you again for our sponsors. Thank you to all audience. It's been a pleasure to see you all today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon again. Have a nice day. So now I will hand over my duty to MC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Mr. Arashi.
Thank you, Pak Arasi.
Okay, that was a great discussion, right?
Of course, Anas.
There were many new information and knowledge in terms of the digitalization era.
Not to forget, Petroweek 2020 is supported by
ExxonMobil Chupu Limited as our gold sponsor,
Telkomsel as our gold sponsor,
Medco Energy as our silver sponsor,
Premier Oil as our silver sponsor,
and PGN Saka as our silver sponsor.
Okay guys, we have come to the most exciting moment of today's event. It is a door prize time! Yay!
Yay! We will randomize your name, so just hope your name will be chosen.
Okay. Attention everyone, please take a good look at your screen because we will use the random name generator app, and whoever comes out will get a 200,000 rupiah worth of GoPay voucher. Okay,
Does it
Mr. Adi.
includes with the speakers?
Okay. Mr. Adi, let's spin.
Okay, to Mr. Fatori, could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello, Mr. Fatoni, can you hear me? Okay, I'm calling once. Twice. Okay, unfortunately, Mr. Fatoni isn't here, so we move to another winner.
So everyone be ready to unmute your microphone so you won't miss the chance to get the door prize.
Okay, Miss Magdalena, could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello, Miss Magdalena. Can Hello once again to Miss Magdalena. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. I called once, twice. Okay, unfortunately, Miss Magdalena isn't here. So we move to another winner. Okay, to Mr. Rafli. Hello, Mr. Rafli. Could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello. Hello. Hello, Mr. Rafli. Can you hear me now?
Okay, Mr. Rafli, congratulations. Your name was chosen. But before the voucher is yours, when I say Petroweek 2020, you say applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. Are you ready? Okay, good. On my count. 3, 2, 1. Petroweek 2020.
Sorry, pardon.
Okay, once again. Petroweek 2020.
Applying digitalization to maximize the potential of oil and gas industry.
Okay, good job. Congratulations to Mr. Rafli. And now for the second winner.
Okay, let's open the random name generator first. Yay! Congratulations to Mr. Muhammad Zaki. Hello, could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello, Mr. Muhammad Zaki. Can you hear me? Okay, I called once, twice. Okay, I believe he's not here. So let's move to the next winner. Yay! Congratulations to Miss Ervin. Could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello, Miss Ervin. Hello. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Ervin. Okay, when I say Petroweek 2020, you say applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. Are you ready? Mr. Ervin?
Halo, iya.
Okay. On my count, 3, 2, 1. Petroweek 2020.
Applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry.
Okay, good job, Mr. Ervin. Congratulations.
Okay. And for the last winner, it's gonna be okay. Congratulations to Mr. Imam Rido. To Mr. Imam Rido, could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello, Mr. Imam Rido. Can you hear me? Hello. Okay, calling once, twice. Okay, I believe he's not here. Let's move to the next winner. Yay! Congratulations to Mr. Julianto.
Hello.
To Mr. Julianto, could you please open your camera and say hi? Hello.
Hello,
Mr.
hello.
Okay, Mr. Julianto. Just like Mr. Ervin, when I say Petroweek 2020, you say applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. Are you ready, Mr. Julianto?
Wait a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Good. On my count, 3, 2, 1. Petroweek 2020.
Applying digitalization to maximize the potential of the oil and gas industry. Thank
Good
you.
job, Mr. Julianto. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Mencegah penurunan yang drastis itu apa, Bu?
Okay.
Yang udah dilakukan.
Now you can unmute your microphone. Okay, congratulations for 3 lucky participants. We will contact you right after. Okay, once again, we would like to express our gratitude to the Honorable Mr. Pande Susanta. Chan, could you share the memento? Yes. To Mr. Pande Susanta. To Mr. Ardian Nengkoda. To Mr. Agung Pratama. To Miss Deva Tasya. To Miss Cindy Hairunisa. And our lovely moderator, Mr. Ashi Azaria. We wish you all the best of luck on your career and health.
And we would like to thank you to our beloved sponsor one last time.
To ExxonMobil Triple Limited as our gold sponsor.
Telkomsel as our gold sponsor.
Medco Energy as our silver sponsor.
Premier Oil as our silver sponsor.
And Peggy and Saka as our silver sponsor.
Okay guys, before we end this event, let's do a photo session together. Please turn on your camera and unmute your mic so we could hear your voices too.
Okay guys, come on. Open your camera.
Oh.
Hello, Toro.
Okay, Sanas. I
Tadi
think
aku
all participants already opened the camera. Okay, Sanas, here we go.
When I count 3, 2, 1, you guys say Petroweek, okay?
Okay.
Okay, here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1.
Petroweek.
Okay, once again, please. When I count 3, 2, 1, you guys say Petroweek, okay? 3, 2, 1.
Petroweek.
Oh no.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This photo will be shared on our Instagram.
Oh, don't forget to check our Instagram at Petroweek 2020.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, committee.
Okay.
Thank you, Ahnas.
Okay, guys.
Thank
This
you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, this is the end of our event.
Thank you very much to all parties who have participated in this event.
We would like to remind you that Petroweek 2020 is a series of event package with grand seminar, online course, and competitions.
Today's grand seminar marked the opening of Petroweek 2020.
So it's going to be exciting week, guys. The paper competition will be held on 9th of September.
Followed by math competition on the 10th of September.
Case study competition on 11th of September.
And last but not least, participated by students and executives from around the world, the Petroweek 2020 online course on the 13th of September 2020.
Hopefully, this event have provided a lot of additional knowledge that will be useful later in the future. And we would like to wish all the best of luck to the delegates from all universities.
We would like to top this off with a quote.
Okay. Next. You can delegate digital transformation for your company. You and your executives have to own it. Executives need to engage, embrace, and adopt new ways of working with the latest and emerging technologies by Barry Ross.
Okay guys, remember, don't forget to wash your hands, use face masks, bring hand sanitizer.
Stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy.
I'm Toro.
And I'm Shana Salifia. We're signing out.
See you on our next event.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, speaker and moderator.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good luck, Petroweek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Luck,
Glenn.
SPE.
Terima kasih. Thank you semua.
The world still has a very high demand for oil and gas to be able to work in the world. Over the decades, the STEM industry has been discovering and developing new alternative energies. It is regrettable fact that not all of them are proven to be practical and efficient. That being so, the oil and gas industry sector remains as the promising one. Considered to be the biggest sector in the world in terms of dollar value, the oil and gas industry is a global powerhouse employing hundreds of thousands of workers worldwide, as well as generating hundreds of billions of dollars globally each year. While the job is tempting, the competition among engineers and fresh graduates are extremely high. In day 1, Petroweek 2020 will conduct a grand seminar with the theme Applying Digitalization to Maximize the Potential of the Oil and Gas Industry. We're going to talk about the advance of digital technology that has paved the way for transmitting and managing huge volumes of data, specifically artificial intelligence and other data technologies. By doing so, the employees are able to achieve improved productivity and increased efficiency throughout the service delivery. AI and machine learning can allow companies to optimize well design, drilling, completion, and even use machines to hold up dangerous tasks on an unmanned basis. In this discussion, we want to know how to maximize the potential of digitalization in the oil and gas industry. After directing our mindsets to move forward to the future, Petroweek 2020 provides a state-of-the-art course event that could enrich your knowledge in terms of moving forward the future of the energy industry. Jumping into the matter new era of energy, Petroweek 2020 Course Day 2 event upholds the theme Oil and Gas 4.0 towards production's prospect optimism. By looking into the conditions we're facing today, we could develop our knowledge in many subjects. Therefore, this event will examine the use of Python in the energy industry, which is a programming language used as an interpreted, object-oriented, high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. Seeing the potential in new technologies on facing the future of the energy industry, let us all grasp this moment to boost our intelligence in order for us to keep up with the newest and latest innovations. Set your goals for tomorrow and start your engines. See you on Petroweek 2020.
Aku kerja di ExxonMobil mulai tahun 2007 sampai sekarang. Interesting buat saya karena saya belum pernah bekerja di lapangan. Sekarang Bojonegoro beda banget dan aku bangga jadi bagian dari perubahan itu. Semoga kegiatanku ini bisa bikin generasi lebih baik. Karena aku suka anak-anak dan aku seneng ngelihat mereka bisa sukses.
Saya tinggal bersama ibu aja. Bapak sudah meninggal waktu masih kecil. Waktu saya masih remaja, saya membantu orang tua saya di sawah. Di situ saya harus bekerja keras, disiplin, dan jujur. Sekarang saya bekerja di ExxonMobil Indonesia yang membantu pertumbuhan ekonomi. Dari sini saya belajar hal-hal yang baru dan mendapatkan kesempatan untuk menjadi yang lebih baik. Apa yang saya tanam, saya akan tuai di masa depan.
Latar belakang saya dari mechanical engineering. Pada saat saya di ExxonMobil Indonesia, saya melihat kesempatan lain ternyata itu di sales. Sebelumnya di engineering, saya hanya melihat masalah sampai dengan penyelesaiannya saja. Di sales, kita mulai dari bagaimana menemukan, bagaimana kita menyelesaikan, sampai dengan mengetahui karakter-karakter orang. Saya ingin menularkan kesuksesan kepada anak-anak yang masih kurang mampu. Di situ masih banyak anak-anak yang belum bisa menikmati sekolah. Harapan saya dan cita-cita saya bisa memberikan lebih banyak lagi dan mendirikan sekolah tanpa biaya.
Menjadi yang terbesar, ceritanya kerap kali tidak lengkap. Karena segala sesuatu yang besar jarang diceritakan ketika dia masih kecil. Di Telkomsel, kami selalu berusaha untuk ingat bahwa kami menjadi yang terbesar semata-mata hanya karena ratusan juta pelanggan setia yang menggunakan kami di hidup mereka. Tanpa semua kehidupan yang kini mengalir di nadi-nadi jaringan kami tidak lebih dari sebuah benda mati. Semua teknologi dan infrastruktur terluas, tercanggih, dan terkini yang kami bangun hanyalah hidup jika ada kehidupan mengalir di dalamnya. Terima kasih karena sudah berbagi kehidupan kalian melalui menara-menara kami. Kami akan selalu ingat bahwa besar kami adalah karena kalian yang bertumbuh besar bersama kami.
Telkomsel menghadirkan Disney Plus Hotstar. Dapatkan harga spesial sekarang dan nikmati tontonan sekelas superhero Marvel. Sekelas film terbaik Disney. Sekelas blockbuster dunia. Dan premier film bioskop Indonesia. Semua di jaringan sekelas Telkomsel. Sinema spektakuler kini di tangan Anda. Langganan di My Telkomsel.
Combo Sakti Telkomsel. Sakti, Sakti, Sakti. Sosmedan. Sakti, Sakti. Chattingan. Sakti, Sakti. Streamingan. Sakti, Sakti. Nge-gaming. Dapat di Combo Sakti. Combo Sakti Telkomsel. Kombonya makin sakti. Tambah kuota 5 giga bisa buat apa aja. Makin asik sosmedan, makin panjang chattingan. Streamingan tetap lanjut, nge-gaming selalu ikut. Semua makin sakti. Combo Sakti Telkomsel. Sakti, Sakti. Sosmedan. Sakti, Sakti. Chattingan. Sakti, Sakti. Streamingan. Sakti, Sakti. Nge-gaming. SAKTI. Combo Sakti Telkomsel. Sakti. Sosmedan. Sakti, Sakti. Chattingan. SAKTI. Sakti, Sakti. Streamingan. Sakti, Sakti. Nge-gaming. Combo Sakti Telkomsel. SAKTI. Combo Sakti Telkomsel.
Beli Combo Sakti bisa dapat tambahan kuota hingga 5 giga. Dapatkan hanya di My Telkomsel.
Hari gini, pilih ketengan paling unlimited. Unlimited seenak jidat. Unlimited sampai gondrong. Unlimited sampai lumutan. Unlimited sampai jempol panas. Dengan kuota ketengan unlimited, sekelas Telkomsel. Aktifkan di My Telkomsel. Salut buat semua ketengers. Ngeteng itu beda sama pelit. Ngeteng kuota YouTube, efeknya jangka panjang.
Hai guys, kenapa gue bilang cukur rambut? Karena lokasinya di bawah pohon guys.
Ngeteng kuota Facebook, bikin punya banyak teman. Ngeteng kuota Instagram, beli dikit, cerita berderet. Pengen ngetren, mending ngeteng. Kuota ketengan, khusus YouTube aja, Instagram aja, Facebook aja, kuota utama aja. Beli di My Telkomsel. Kejutan ketengan. Ada kuota ketengan TikTok buat para ketengers. Nge-scroll TikTok gak pakai mentok. Buat yang suka joget-jogetan, gaya keren-kerenan, lucu-lucu Lucuan? Aneh-anehan? Seriusan? Ngetren TikTokan? Abis-abisan? Pakai kuota ketengan khusus TikTok aja. Beli di My Telkomsel.